Oh, hi, hello, everybody. I hope you're excited for this.
Oh, hi, hello. Welcome to the season finale of Lorebeards 40k.
I
No,
I I am so excited for this one. I've wanted to talk about Imperials for so long, and the fall of Cadia is one of my favorite moments in all of Warhammer.
it's gonna be wild, but we got to remember to introduce ourselves. We last episode on Wednesday we forgot until almost the very end, so we need to make sure to do it
Yes.
early. Who are you, Norn Queen Alexis?
So, I am Norn Queen Alexis. I am a Viking reenactor. I am way too deep into Warhammer 40k. I've recently started collecting Pokemon cards. I have a collecting habit. It's kind of a problem and it's very expensive because I collect swords, Warhammer, Pokemon, and somehow Warhammer's the cheapest out of all of my hobbies.
Wow,
I know, right? Isn't that wild? But
that's
Ross,
that's
who are
pretty great.
you?
Hi, everybody. I'm Ross Watson. I am a game designer and author. I worked on most of the Warhammer 40k role playing game line and worked on several Warhammer 40k video games, including Battlefleet Gothic Armada. And I was on the US White Dwarf team for a couple of years. Uh, if you if you know anything about Rogue Traders or the Death Watch, I am basically the guy that created most of the lore for those. Uh, so it's pretty exciting. Oh, and the Inquisition. I made up a lot of lore for the Inquisition too.
Heck yeah.
So, oh my God, today, the fall of Cadia. It,
Yeah. So, Ross, what if I told you that some Eldari Harlequin came out of the warp to tell me that Be'lakor was going to attack Terra, and because of that, I needed to go to Cadia because 13th Black Crusade isn't exactly the 13th Black Crusade. It's two 13th Black Crusades. And then I have to go and muster the forces of the Space Wolves and the Dark Angels, get them to get along so that I could go to a planet to defend it while Necrons show up to save our asses. And then while all hope seems lost, the Eldar show up to save our asses. And then Kane somehow gets here too. Because why not? We're here for the fall of Cadia. This is the biggest battle in Warhammer 40k. Strictly 40k, not the Horus Heresy. I want to make that very clear.
yeah, I came in here wanting to say something very similar. In the Warhammer 40k lore, the most important event is the Horus Heresy, but the arguably the second most important thing that has ever happened in the entirety of the lore is the fall of Cadia. So this is one of the biggest things in Warhammer 40k to discuss, and I'm here for it. I'm excited. Now, before we get really deep into it, though, we have to lay some groundwork. We have to tell you, what Cadia is, who Abaddon is, what the Black Crusades are. Where do you want to start, Alexis?
Uh well, there's so much. Okay, because every force of the Imperium is involved in this. Well, not every single one, but
Many
many,
forces.
many forces are represented in this. In fact, there are so many Space Marine chapters involved in this battle that they can't list them all. When I counted, I think I got to like 16 different chapters are involved in this battle.
That's a lot.
Uh, but a lot of them are just, hey, this person of this chapter showed up at this time. So we don't know the exact numbers. We do have an exact number of tanks that were used, though, and it was well over 10,000. So at minimum, there were 10,001.
I mean, that's not quite as big as the tank battle on Talarn, but it's pretty goddamn big.
Well, it's supposedly the biggest tank battle that they've ever had on Cadia.
On Cadia, yes. Talarn
Yes.
is still the biggest tank battle ever, but yeah,
Yes.
Cadia is
Because
definitely a second hand. I've got a list of what we could talk about in terms of the forces involved, although it is a very, very, very long list. Holy shit. Uh,
okay, the one that we can get out of the way really quickly, because technically he's involved, he was sent by Abaddon, is Be'lakor and his Shadow Legion. Be'lakor was supposed to attack the Planetary Defense Force, but he kind of had other plans because it's Be'lakor. and he flew all the way to Terra after he saw that the planet was that when Cadia was being attacked, Be'lakor was like, "Oh, this planet's already fallen. Let me go and attack the Phalanx before it gets here." Because he's a demon, he knows it's coming. And then he, well, failed. And it was, for the longest time, that was Bellacor's canonical death in Warhammer 40k until they brought him back. Which I thought was pretty funny. He died to the Legion of the Damned. Also, Ross, this is one battle where the Legion of Damned canonically lose.
True. Well, the Imperium canonically loses here.
Yes.
So this is big for a lot of reasons. Just to give a quick breakdown, you're looking at somewhere around 30,000 loyalist Space Marines, somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 50,000 Chaos Space Marines, millions of soldiers from dozens of regiments on both sides. So there's millions of regular Astra Militarum and Sisters Battle, all that other stuff, and millions of cultists and traitor guardsmen and stuff like that too. And then hundreds of warships on both sides. This is the largest military engagement since the Horus Heresy. And again, those are just the Imperium and Chaos forces. I'm not even talking about the Orc fleets or the demon armies or the
Legio
Eldari.
Titanicus.
Yeah, there's Titans and stuff too. It's insane. So on the Chaos side, I can run through this fairly quickly if you want me to.
Yes, I want to hear it.
All right, cool. So Chaos side, Black Legion, obviously the biggest, strongest central force under Abaddon. There were 9 traitor legions represented: the Death Guard, the Thousand Sons, the World Eaters, the Emperor's Children, the Iron Warriors, the Night Lords, the Word Bearers, the Alpha Legion, and of course the Black Legion, as we said before. And there were at least 5 more Renegade Chaos Space Marine warbands. You had 3 Chaos War Fleets, 1 Blackstone Fortress, the Planet Killer.
Yep.
An unknown number of Chaos Cults, Mutants, and Traitor Guard regiments. The Dark Mechanicum was there. 6 different Traitor Titan legions were there. Demon armies from all 4 Chaos Gods. Be'lakor, the first Demon Prince. And a couple of champions of Khorne and Slaanesh. That's just to start. And a partridge in a pear tree. Might as well throw it in there.
Yeah.
Now, on the Imperial side, you had the Space Wolves, the Imperial Fists, the Black Templars, Ultramarines, Blood Angels, Salamanders, Dark Angels, Howling Griffins, Death Specters, Subjugators, Doom Eagles, Marines Exemplar, and Grey Knights were all present. Cadian shock troops, obviously, almost all of them.
Yep.
18 other different regiments from different worlds, including the Drukian Fen Guard and the Joran 146th. You had Battlefleet Cadia, Battlefleet Corona, Battlefleet Gothic, Battlefleet Scarus, and Battlefleet Solar, all involved. And at least 57 other Imperial Navy battle groups. 5 Orders Militant of the Sisters of Battle, Saint Celestine herself, Belisarius Call, Scutari Legions, Legio Cybernetica, 4 different Titan Legions. The Ordinatus were there, several Night Houses, Inquisitor Greyfax, which is
she
really
gets summoned.
She gets Pokeballed. Several Officio Assassinorum agents, plus Necrons, plus Eldari fleets, plus the Ynnari,
plus ancient Ultramarines,
the Legion of the Damned, and a partridge in a pear tree. That is a lot of forces. Holy shit. Now we've got a couple of super chats we should read. Biofoot became a member. Thank you. Is it true that Cadia fell because it sucked bad? No, that is not why Cadia fell. Oh, Biofoot, never change, buddy. Never change.
Oh, God damn it.
Kurinshima says Cadia sits. We're going to talk about the memes a little bit too, because the memes are actually relevant.
Yep.
So having gotten just the basic order battle out of the way, we do need to talk about what is Cadia. So would you like to start with that?
So Cadia is the most heavily defended world that sits right outside of the Eye of Terra. It is the blockade planet from the Eye of Terra. Anything that escapes from the Eye of Terra has to deal with Cadia and its defensive forces. Cadia has been holding strong for 10,000 years. They have been fighting nonstop. And because of Cadian's presence so close to the warp, their eyes are purple because of the warp influence on their bodies. This actually did not sit too well with a lot of Inquisitors, but a lot of Inquisitors were like, no, they're warp resistant, so it's fine. So Cadians are actually like one of those things where Puritan Inquisitors don't like them, but normal Inquisitors that can use their brain love them. Cadians have their own version of Tempestus Scions called Kasserkin. They are renowned as the most equipped, most elite guardsmen of all guardsmen. They had all of the equipment. They had everything first. They got as much as they could need because their whole planet was dedicated to defending against chaos.
The Caserkin are called Caserkin because the individual castles, I guess I would put it as the best way, like they're really heavily fortified settlements, are called Casers on Cadia. Like you have Caserholm or Caser or Talon or whatever. And so the Caserkin are the ones that are the most renowned soldiers of that particular settlement. That's why they're called Caserkin. So just want to get that out there. But yes, Cadia was the most important fortress world in the Imperium, and it barred it was its purpose was to be a plug, I guess, for any chaos forces that were trying to sweep out of the Eye of Terror. Now, keep in mind, there were 13 Black Crusades, and each Black Crusade is a massive military campaign that launches from the Eye of Terror when the Chaos Forces unite under some kind of powerful champion, almost always Abaddon, the Despoiler. So 13 times there's been a Black Crusade that's left the Eye of Terror. And Cadia has, been important. But this is the first time that they were like, okay, we're just going to destroy Cadia rather than get distracted by it. We want it gone.
Yep, and they had one hell of a plan to do it because their actual campaign took dozens upon dozens of years prior to the actual unveiling of the Black Legion coming out. They pit the Space Wolves versus the Dark Angels as part of it, trying to kill off the Space Wolves. And then the Space Wolves came into Cadia, and there's not that many left at the point of them returning to Cadia. There is so much that's happening prior to, like, the Wolfen get discovered, Dark Angels attack Loyalist Marines, Dark Angels attack Loyalist Imperial citizens. There's a lot.
Corinne Shima asks a really good question here. He says, isn't space 3D? How can one planet block or defend the Eye of Terror's invasion, even if it's because of the pylons? The pylons are helpful in keeping the Eye of Terror from expanding, which, we will see what happens at the end of the Fall of Cadia with that. Mostly it's just a strategic location. It's not like physically stopping anything. In fact, I was trying to make a point of that with the 13 Black Crusades, is that they can and have bypassed Cadia in the past.
Yeah.
But it is always the first place that they will come to. Geographically, it's just located very, very close to the Eye of Terror, which is why the eyes are all violet on the Cadians. And there's almost always a massive space group of ships near and around Cadia to intercept. It's a base from which they can launch interceptions of Black Crusades or forces coming out of the Eye of Terror. So just think about it in terms of strategy rather than geography, because it doesn't stop, like physically stop anybody coming out, but it is a problem that you have to solve. You can go out and go way around if you need to, but
I think there's multiple Space Marine chapters that patrol around it as well. And then there's a entire craft world that's near it.
So just going back to Cadia really quick. Well, that's Ulthway. Yeah, Ulthway, the craft world, is also nearby. Going back to Cadia really quick, the Cadian culture, every Cadian man and woman was a soldier. They were all raised from birth to be soldiers, to be Imperial Guardsmen. And when they're in their cadet form, they're called White Shields. And then the White Shields have to earn their place as a true Guardsman. The entire society revolved around warfare. So they had these fortresses that were their cities. They, drilled endlessly for all kinds of different types of battles. Cadia itself was a world that had a lot of different biomes on it. It had rivers and lakes and mountains and deserts and all the typical things you would expect on a world. But it just was fortified to the nth degree and had like hidden vaults full of just shitloads of military material, from ammunition to food to water to fuel to vehicles. It was built as the ultimate fortress world, and the Cadians were very, very proud of it. They were very, very proud of their service, and they were proud of the fact that they were so well trained that they were the benchmark against which all other Astra Militarum was measured against. How good are you compared to the Cadians? That was always, a thing. The population was around 850 million on Cadia, which may sound low. And part of the reason is that Cadia exported lots and lots and lots of troops across the galaxy. Just about every year, they tithed a pretty substantial portion of their population. So 850 million is a lot, but it's not. It's maybe less than you would expect.
Also, keep in mind military losses and the fact that their planet is constantly assaulted by demons.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not just oh, demons have arrived, we're going to war. No, demons could just arrive on Cadia whenever. Like, you could look in the mirror one day and your reflection blinks wrong and there's a demon there and you have to fight it.
Ricky Chapman says, "Frock you, Silver Dawn, for failing Cadia."
Yeah.
So appreciate you, Ricky Chapman. This is the part where I say super chats are the best way to support the channel, support us as the hosts, and just keep us creating more content. So we're always grateful to everybody who chooses to give us a super chat. It's always great. Battle Group Silver Dawn, by the way, what he's talking about there was an Imperial Navy battle fleet commanded by Admiral Veneska Catalia during the fall of Cadia. And they tried to reinforce the ships and were destroyed by the Vengeful Spirit, which is Abaddon's flagship and formerly Horus's Gloriana class battleship. It's one of the most renowned ships in the setting. So
also, we do have to point out that Abaddon's fleet has a surprising way of getting his ships back that have been obliterated. Because Planet Killer is notorious for coming back to life. In fact, even its machine spirit says that it will not die.
So who is Abaddon the Despoiler? Because we're going to need to tell people about him too, right?
Yes, we are. So Abaddon is the War Master, and he was the first captain under Horus. And he blamed Horus for the failure of the Siege of Terra and wants to one-up him. He wants to do it properly. And he knows it's going to take thousands of years to properly destroy the Imperium and rot it down to its core in a way that suits his wants and desires. Abaddon is the chosen of all four Chaos Gods. He also has favor of Vashtor, which he isn't a god yet, but God's light. But he is favored by all four Chaos Gods, which makes him the ever-chosen, essentially. To put it into fantasy terms, Abaddon is Archeon. Well, they're kind of the same character. Yeah, similar designed characters, let's say that.
Yeah, Abaddon was the so Horus's most favored son and right-hand advisor was Abaddon during the Great Crusade. Mm-hmm. And after the Siege of Terra, when Horus fell, Abaddon was there to see it. He witnessed this, and he took the traitor legions and basically tried to organize them after the retreat from Terra which he did organize the majority of the Sons of Horus into what is now known as the Black Legion, which is the largest, most dangerous chaos force in the galaxy. So Abaddon commands the biggest force of chaos aligned anything, and he is essentially the big bad of Warhammer 40k.
Yeah, he is. Just flat out. He is the Saturday morning cartoon villain of 40k.
Now he doesn't hate Horus, to clarify. He wants vengeance. Almost all Gene Sons love their Primarch. They have a very strong bond with their Primarch.
Except Typhus.
Almost all. I didn't say all. It's almost all. You can look at the World Eaters for another very strained relationship. But generally speaking, like if you have a Primarch and his Gene Sons, his Legion, they have a very strong bond. So Abaddon was very upset about the death of Horus, and he swore vengeance on the Imperium, and he spent 10,000 years doing it. This is what's called the Long War. There's a reason why Chaos Space Marines are often called veterans of the Long War, because Abaddon has kept them not united, but focused on tearing down what they call the false emperor, that being the emperor of mankind. And they have, if when we eventually get to cover the Horus Heresy and talk about all of that, I want to be clear, they have actually very good reasons to want to get rid of the emperor, very valid motivations to tear down the Imperium.
Yeah.
They are villains, and they are, I mean, you certainly could call them evil, but again, there's no good guys in 40k, and even,
I mean, yeah, it's villain versus villain. It's which one is the better of the two evils.
The lesser, maybe a lesser evil. It's unclear. It's often unclear which is the lesser evil, to be clear. But Abaddon is the greatest antagonist of the setting, and this is his big moment to shine, because he had led 12 Black Crusades prior to this attack on Cadia, and each one had been defeated. Each one had crashed upon the waves of the Imperial defenses and then been driven back to the Eye of Terror, time and time and time again. Eventually, we'll talk about the Gothic War, which is one of the most interesting Black Crusades. It's the 8th Black Crusade.
To be clear, Abaddon did succeed in most of his Black Crusades. Not all of them were to destroy the Imperium. A lot of them were to get certain artifacts.
Well, that's the thing, is that older lore was that Abaddon was being defeated and driven back every time.
Yeah.
But again, it's important to remember that almost all we know about Warhammer 40k is through the lens of the Imperium. This is what the Imperium believes to be true. This is what they're told. This is how they believe. So the Imperium was like, oh yeah, we beat that guy. We whooped his ass. We sent him packing. The more recent lore for Abaddon is that every time he launched a Black Crusade, his goal wasn't necessarily to drive all the way to Terra and take down the Emperor, although probably the first one was. But the subsequent Black Crusades were strategic. He wanted to get artifacts, or he wanted to find and destroy certain things. He was setting up what would become his greatest triumph, which is the fall of Cadia.
Now, I do want to talk about his weapons that Abaddon wields. We will go more in depth on this, but during one of the Black Crusades, I think it was the second or third, Abaddon came, he essentially found the location of Dracnian. Dracnian is a demon that is so powerful, it wounded the Emperor. He found what the Emperor did with it, which the Emperor forced it into a sword and then stabbed it into his most loyal subject and told him to run through the webway. Eventually, he did fall, and Abaddon gathered the sword. He also wields the Talon of Horus. The Talon of Horus can actually psychologically mess with Blood Angels in the field. It can trigger their, I think it's the Black Rage.
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't trigger the Red Thirst, but it does trigger the Black Rage.
Yes.
Because it is the weapon that killed Sanguinius. And also technically the Emperor. But they don't believe the Emperor died. They're very much, he didn't die to that.
Well, the Blood Angels are, it's a big trigger for them. They They're like, hey, that guy looks like Horus.
Yeah.
They
Hey,
say that a
that's
lot.
Horus. So what wound up happening is Abaddon, after the whole fiasco of the misunderstanding, the Horus hearsay, um, but after all of that, Abaddon put himself in isolation until a few other members came to him. You can read all about this in Aaron Dinsky Bowden's book, Talon of Horus. It's absolutely an amazing book and takes a know-nothing character like Abaddon, who's kind of a joke that was written by Games Workshop, and gives him so much depth and makes you love everything about him. And he unifies all the legions, and he tells them flat out, like, Horus is very not Horus. Abaddon is very open to his advisors and tells them his plans. He managed to get Iskandar Kion onto Terra, which is fucking crazy, and they've never addressed that one. That's a huge problem. And yeah, so when Horus came to Horus actually not Horus, sorry, Abaddon. Abaddon managed to get all of the other Primarchs to agree with him, which is something that only a Primarch prior to him was able to do. He is charismatic. That's one of the scary things about Abaddon, is he's as charismatic as Horus. He is, in fact, very close to Horus. Now, granted, a lot of the Primarchs do wind up betraying him, so he's not exactly the same as Horus, where Horus would be like, kneel, and Mortarion would be like, yes, daddy. Abaddon would be like, kneel before me or I'll drop you. And Mortarion would be like, you can't drop me. And he's just like, I have Draconian. What do you have? Oh, yeah, you're right. All right. What do you want?
Yeah. So we talked about Abaddon, we talked about Cadia. I think that sets up enough to.
Oh, no, we need to talk about Creed.
Okay, go ahead.
He's super important. So Creed is one of my favorite memes in all of Warhammer 40k because he had the ability to infiltrate any one unit in Warhammer. So you would infiltrate like Bane Blades behind light posts. It just had to be in a piece of terrain. But Creed is a insanely intelligent general. He is without a doubt probably the smartest human, unaugmented human. Granted, he does have some augmentics, but I mean his brain isn't augmented. Augmentized.
He has a
Let's
human
go with
brain.
that.
He has a human.
He has
brain.
human brain. So, he was a military genius. He's the one that stopped Abaddon on a bunch of his campaigns. He's also the one that had a vision, possibly, of Abaddon coming. This seems to happen a lot, which is kind of weird because even Yarrick had this same vision. It might be the Emperor getting involved, being like, hey, something's coming. But he had a premonition of Abaddon coming and mustered his forces together. He's also the one that took charge when all of the high command died on Cadia. He was just like, all right, shit's mine now. And even Space Marines listened to him. Like, that's like, there are two humans in 40k that Space Marines will not fuck with, and that's Commissar Yarrick and Creed.
Just to be clear, we're talking about Ursarkar Creed,
Yeah,
not Ursula Creed. The two different
Ursula.
people.
Not the one that wants to take your voice.
Yeah, Ursarkar Creed, and he fought Abaddon basically twice. Once at the Battle of Tyrock Fields, and then during the 13th Black Crusade. But he did. His leadership was so good that it did stymie a whole bunch of Abaddon's advances. So there is a reason why they are often considered not arch enemies, but very strong rivals for excellent strategists, that kind of thing.
And one of my favorite things about him is during the fall of Cadia, Creed was being assaulted by Abaddon. Celestine was down. I forget which chapter masters were there, but they were down. Everyone's down. And Creed just stands there like, I didn't hear no bell.
And he was always accompanied by his color sergeants, who carried the banner of the Cadia, I think the regiment specifically of Creed. And this color sergeant's name was Johannes Krell. He had a power fist, which was big for an Imperial Guardsman, by the way, to have a power fist.
Yeah.
But Kel was and he had an augmented voice, so he could yell very, very loud. Kel was very famously loyal to Creed and followed him around everywhere, and did not survive the battle at Fall of Cadia. Killed by Abaddon, in fact.
Yes, I do want to answer this really quickly. Yarick was not there.
Mm-mm.
Yarick was not there.
No.
But I was comparing Creed to Yarick because those two, when they command a Space Marines tend to listen to them.
Yeah, I mispronounced the name. It's Jaren or Jaren. I don't know. But
Jaren.
I'm gonna go with Kel. Jaren. So let's dive in now. I think is probably a good time.
Oh, and then we have to explain Celestine, and then we have to explain
Oh God, no.
and then we have to explain.
We'd be here all day.
Why were there only like 500 Space Wolves left?
There's a lot. This is a very complicated issue.
I do wish, like, this is slight tangent. I do wish GW was brave enough to kill off the Space Wolves. This was the perfect moment to kill them off, and it would have made total narrative sense for them.
Now, this happened in 2017. This event occurred. And for almost 3 decades prior to that moment, the setting had been pretty static. Warhammer 40k had been kind of stuck in this 1 minute to midnight phase where it was always like 999 M41 and something big was about to happen but never quite managed to happen. They would go back and fill stories in from before, and that was fine. Like the lore was handled very, very well. But the one of the biggest things about the Fall of Cadia, it was a sea change. It utterly altered how the setting would work going forward.
It was the end times for 40k.
Not quite.
I would almost compare it to fantasy to AOS.
Well, we will have to talk about like the impact on the fan community about this as well. And I have notes prepared on that. So more than a military defeat, the Fall of Cadia was a culmination of a 10,000 year strategic arc. This is the destruction of the planet was also about getting rid of this ancient anti-chaos apparatus that had been present on Cadia, predating even human civilization. And the destruction of Cadia is what caused the Great Rift to open, a warp storm that literally tore the galaxy in half. So this is one of the reasons why it's such a big deal. And Cadia didn't just fall to siege. It's not like they just walked up and killed everyone and took over. It was shattered by a Blackstone fortress hurled like a meteor into the crust of the world. This is the final move in a game that Abaddon had been playing since the Horus Heresy, and he literally ripped that world apart.
I think he also killed his adoptive daughter in this attack.
Yes, she's part of it. Yes, she was the one piloting the Blackstone Fortress, which we'll get into. Now, just to talk about Cadia really quick, a little bit more, because I know we had some questions about it. The position of Cadia was a unique and irreplaceable strategic position in the galaxy because it was right at the rimward edge of the Segmentum Obscurus, and it guards a warp route called the Cadian Gate. It's the only navigable, reliable corridor in and out of the Eye of Terror. Okay. You can get in and out of the Eye of Terror in other ways. It's just incredibly dangerous and incredibly difficult. Going through the Cadian Gate is the easiest, most reliable way. So that's why Cadia's position was very, very important. And
basically, the second you got out of the Eye of Terror, you were met with the forces of Cadia because
the Cadian Gate was its space is big. So you know what that guy is saying, is it space 3D? Yes, they can go around, and they have gone around. It's just it becomes tougher each time, and the Imperium just keeps throwing more stuff at Cadia basically to stop it.
Typically, what they would do is the second that they managed to get out of the Cadian Gate, they would just try to teleport to another part of the galaxy. They would just be like, okay, we're safe. Boop. Now we're on a different side of the galaxy.
Right. Without using the Cadian Gate, any Chaos forces trying to leave the Eye of Terror would be running into some really nasty warp storms, and those could scatter or destroy even the largest space armada. So Cadia was kind of like a boulder in a mountain pass. It's difficult to bypass and impossible to ignore.
Mm-hmm.
The planet itself was very ecologically diverse: frozen tundras, temperate plains, windswept moors. Uh, it had 70% of its surface covered by ocean, very Earth-like in a lot of ways. Interestingly, fun fact: during the Horus Heresy, Lorgar and the Wordbearers visited this world.
Yeah, they did.
It's one of their first, it was one of their last stops on the pilgrimage into the Eye of Terror was through Cadia. So Cadia's environment was deeply touched by chaos corruption because it's so close to the Eye of Terror. And that meant the native human population had these distinctive violet eyes, which is the same general color as the Eye of Terror. It's a pinkish purple. And this is because there's, thousands and thousands and thousands of years of exposure to the warp from the people of Cadia. Another reason why they were considered extremely good troops is because they weren't bothered or afraid of the Eye of Terror or even chaos in general. They were like, whatever, we've been here. They've never managed to destroy us. We'll be here forever. Their cultural resistance to the idea of corruption being, the forces of chaos being a thing that you simply can't beat. That was a big deal. That's one of the reasons why Cadia was an important world and why the Cadian shock troops as a regiment were one of the most important regiments in the Imperial Guard.
I do absolutely love it. Although it is weird that in none of the RPG books that Cadians got resistance chaos.
They probably could
Like
have.
you can buy it as a Cadian, which is
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
But it's like they should start with that, damn it.
Yeah, I mean, looking back, that's probably true. So Cadia was the most militarized world in the Imperium. The society of Cadia was one in which the concept of a civilian just didn't really exist. Children entered the White Shields as soon as they could physically carry the weapons.
I think even like toddlers were taught to carry ammunition packs.
Right? Yeah. If you were too young to wield the rifle, you could carry ammo. Mm-hmm. Their tactical doctrine was honed by centuries of fighting, the direct overflow of the Eye of Terror. These guys were veterans and veterans and veterans. Because the Eye of Terror had basically been constantly hemorrhaging regiments across the galaxy for thousands of years. Cadia had been hemorrhaging regiments for thousands of years. That's why they're spread across the galaxy. You'll find Cadians almost everywhere.
Or companies that look like Cadians.
Right.
There were tons of different guard regiments that all bear the same color, very similar color schemes to Cadia, and the only difference is their badge that's on their shoulder is like, instead of the Cadia one, it's like a stripe with like a lightning bolt or something like that. And we're a different regiment. We're not Cadians, but we look up to them.
The defining cultural touchstone of Cadia was a phrase called Cadia stands. It's a rallying cry, and its origin from the 2023 novel, by the way, was where we could find out about that. The same guy who wrote Infinite the Divine wrote the Fall of Cadia novel. I'm looking forward to reading.
So good.
Yeah. It's a fragment. It's really a fragment of an unfinished sentence because it's part of a speech that Color Sergeant Kell had written for Creed after the Battle of Tyrock Fields, which we will probably discuss at least a little bit. And the phrase was meant to be "Cadia stands united," which was a deliberate way to level out all the class stratifications on Cadia and say all Cadians are one. We are all united in this. We are all Cadia. Is probably a better way to put it. And this truncated version, Cadia stands, became legend. And that you'll see, I actually have it on my my title under my picture here. Now we need to talk a little bit about the pylons, don't we, Alexis?
Yes, we do. So, the Necron pylon system was a weapon slash defense that the Necrons built in the War in Heaven.
Hey, there we
We
are.
did it. We got back to the War in Heaven.
We connected the dots.
So, in the War in Heaven, when the Necron tier and Necrons were, I'm going to say Necron tier and Necrons, when they were fighting the Eldar, at various points in their history, they decided to build anti-psyker, anti-warp technologies because they had nothing to fully combat it with like actual like they had no psychers. Or at least if they did, we don't know of any. But the Necrons didn't have psychers and they don't have psychers. They just have magic technology. So they built these networks around the galaxy to suppress psychic powers as much as possible. Though the pylons can actually be used to amplify or even be overwhelmed with psychic presence. So you can actually break the pylons by simply trying to summon 1 billion demons. I don't know why you would try that. That seems really dumb when you have lasers that could blow them up from space, but to each their own. Abaddon is a masterful tactician. I'm just an idiot sitting on a computer.
The reason why the Cadian gate, that route out of the Eye of Terror, was so stable is because of these pylons on Cadia.
Yep. And it's turned out that throughout the Black Crusades that Abaddon was gaining as much knowledge about these things that he could. This definitely wasn't retroactively thrown into the lore to justify the Black Crusades in any way, shape, or form.
What? Games Workshop retconning their lore? That would never happen.
No, that's never happened in the history of forever.
Come on. No,
as
we're
far
being
as
sarcastic.
as far as I know, custodians are still standing there naked. By the way, custodians were also involved in the fall of Cadia. I just want to mention that as well.
As often as you talk about custodians, having their big muscular bodies on display, all oiled up and wearing loincloths, I have to feel like this is maybe like, I don't know, little fetish of yours, maybe. I'm just saying.
No, I just love bringing it up because people think that the custodians being women is a retcon, and I'm like, no, them putting on armor is a retcon.
Technically, that's true.
But jokes aside, during the Black Crusades, Abaddon figured out ways of amplifying and even destroying these Blackstone pylons, and these things were designed to stop warp shenanigans, warp storms, because back in the War in Heaven, Eldar were so powerful, they were literally throwing celestial warp storms at the Necrons, and the Necrons had to figure out a way to stop that, and thus the pylon network. So there's a lot to it. It's a defense mechanism. And now Abaddon figured out how to weaponize it because, nothing says here's a rock that gives you infinitely potential like a nuclear bomb.
Now, it's important to point out the Imperium never really understood what the pylons were or what they did. In fact, Trazen the Infinite, who's a Necron character we've talked about on the show before and who deserves his own episode, he shows up during this conflict and he mentions to Belisarius Call, he says, the Imperium never really understood the purpose of the devices it has guarded so dearly. The pylons were not just fortifications; they were a mechanism that created Cadia's strategic importance. So, if you remove the pylons, the Cadian gate collapses. Remove the gate, and nothing contains chaos within the Eye of Terror any longer.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's the fact about those. Like you were saying, Alexis, the most significant retcon in modern 40k lore is that Abaddon's previous adventures were part of a master plan. For as I said, for 3 decades almost, this idea of Abaddon failing had been a thing. In fact, the fan culture had called him Failbaddon.
Failbaddon.
Yeah, a few times.
Well, Failbaddon the Armless, because his metal model was notorious for its arms being too heavy for it, and it would just fall off.
That's right, the old metal minis.
Yep.
So this perception was recontextualized by Games Workshop. They established that each of the previous Black Crusades was not a failed attempt at conquest, but a deliberate step in a 10,000-year strategy called the Crimson Path.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Which
goal
is
was
not related to the
yeah.
Crimson King or the Crimson King or the Crimson King, all three being different characters. Oh,
Or the
sorry,
Crimson.
There's four Crimson Kings. My
There's the
apologies.
there's the Crimson Lord too, Argyle Tall. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the Crimson Lord.
Crimson King 1 is Magnus the Red, if I remember right.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah. So the Crimson Path, and the goal was not to take Cadia in any individual assault. The goal was to locate and destroy every Blackstone pylon array in the galaxy. So one campaign at a time, he's progressively weakening the veil between the material world and the warp, the materium and the immaterium, the reality and the Empyrean or the Great Ocean or whatever. There's a lot of different words for the warp, okay, but that's essentially what it is. So the second Black Crusade, which was, like I said, I think the first Black Crusade was just like a revenge. I think that was a revenge ride, honestly. But the second Black Crusade,
Yeah,
that was the first time that Abaddon went out and was like, okay, we're going to destroy these things called Eldritch Needles, which were other pylon structures. And then subsequent crusades targeted pylon sites on other worlds. And by the time this 13th Black Crusade launched, only Cadia had it was the last network of pylons remaining intact and functional.
Unless GW needs more.
So this recontextualization, this retcon, basically established that every prior Black Crusade that the Imperium had celebrated as a defensive victory was, in fact, from Abaddon's perspective, mission accomplished.
Yeah. Now, keep in mind, he didn't always, not every single Black Crusade was to destroy pylons. A good chunk of them were to do that. Some of them were to get items like the Eye of Darkness, the Hand of Dominion, or something like that. One of them was to get Drachnion. One of them was to kidnap somebody.
Yeah, well, there were other objectives.
A few weird ones.
Yeah, there were other objectives, and we will talk about the Gothic War, which is where he picks up the Blackstone fortresses. Which, to be very, very short about the Blackstone fortresses, these are massive space stations that are, I mean, they're essentially little Death Stars. They're basically like a small moon.
But they are super powerful.
They were super powerful.
If you get 4 of them together, you can nuke an entire sun.
What's funny is that they're made out of Noctilith, which is the anti-warp material, Blackstone, but they have powerful warp weapons inside of them. And it's suggested that the Eldar built them. the lore heavily implies that the Eldari were the ones that built the Blackstone fortresses, because they're called the Talons of All, I believe. Yeah.
We know who built the Blackstone fortresses. It was monkeys.
The Jokero. We're gonna have to do a whole episode of the Blackstone fortresses because they're crazy important to a lot of stuff. But just so you're aware, they're massive space-going fortresses in space. They're big ass space stations, and Abaddon had 2 of them when he returned on the 13th Black Crusade. One he gave to
Huron
Blackheart, and the other one he crashed into Cadia, which we will talk about later.
Yeah. There is also another one in the lore right now in the Blackstone Fortress game, which is currently in the possession of what is that in Rogue Trader's name? Janice Drake.
Yeah.
So it's in Imperial control.
For as much as that means anything, because the Imperium knows nothing about how to operate them.
Well, I mean, Drek knows how to operate it somehow.
I think he has ideas about.
Yeah, he's pushed a few buttons.
He has concepts of a plan of how to activate and operate the Blackstone Fortress. I don't think he has I don't believe he has the owner's manual or anything like that. Let's put it that way.
He just needs to put a bird inside it, and he'll know how to fly it.
So the 13th Black Crusade was the greatest war host ever assembled since the Horus Heresy. We talked about all the things that were part of it. The Blackstone Fortress. Go ahead.
I think we need to start moving on to the Prelude, which is all of the different war bands that simultaneously attacked certain areas so that Abaddon can come out.
Right. I would like to do that. Just let me get out like one little bit, and then I'll turn it
Yep,
over to
yep,
you
yep,
for
yep.
that. I just wanted to say that the Blackstone Fortress is called the Will of Eternity, and there was this ancient prophecy called the Liber Malefact that had foretold that there were going to be 13 crusades by the quote unquote traitor king, which is obviously Abaddon, culminating in the eye staring unblinking at its prize, which is obviously the Eye of
The
Terror
Eye of
looking at
Terror.
Cadia. And so the 13th Black Crusade was kind of a fulfillment of this ancient prophecy. And anyone who understands like chaos cults out there who study the numerology of chaos, for them, this number, the 13th, was a vast, was a very significant thing. And now I will turn it over to Alexis to talk about the warbands and how they
Well,
set stuff up.
before that,
Nestor Vitumbra, welcome. He's got a super chat. A letdown of many images of Cadia in books and video games is that they depict typical Imperial Gothic buildings where when in older lore, the Caesars had a distinctive tactical brutalist style. Yeah, I imagine Cadia is having a far more blocky prison look, like brutalism. Yeah, I agree.
what I believe is that where the major battle took place was more imperialistic because of imperial defenses, and where the actual casts were more brutalistic. But yeah, it is kind of I I know GW's trying to move towards their own imagery of their terrain being used in all of their descriptions and all the background imagery so that it's distinctly Games Workshop. So that's the real reason they did it. Uh
I could tell you as a veteran of working on many 40k video games that Games Workshop is like, hey, so buildings in 40k look like this, and they'll show you the terrain. They'll literally send us boxes of the terrain and be like, make it look like this.
yep.
I forget the name of the terrain box with the Citadel Imperialis. I think maybe
Yes, yeah.
that's the most recent one. I think, or it was certainly the one I was looking at a few years back when I was working on a game that never came out. So
When I was working with Games Workshop for doing battle reports, they sent us terrain boxes and they're like, use this for your games. And it wasn't in the contract, but they were just like, come on, come on. Use
yeah,
this.
so they're very keen. Games Workshop is very, very keen on any visual depiction of the universe needs to match what the miniatures look like, and that's a reason why I'm not saying I agree with it. I didn't come up with it, but that's the reason why you see it that way in most video games. So
Yeah.
there you go. Please proceed, Alexis.
Okay. So we got typhus attacking a world. We got Bellis Corona being attacked by plague zombies. What was the other one? That's the Death Guard one. Hang on, I gotta check my notes really quickly. I know that the brain work. Remember Chaos Legions. You could do this, brain. I believe in you. They're the Warp Talons. They are Night Lords. Thank you, brain. The Night Lords attacked. They attacked Agapina, didn't they?
Agrippina, yeah.
Yeah. So they took on Agapina. They took on. I'm pronouncing it the way it's pronounced in the Battlefleet Gothic game. Because I love the voice actress in that, even though she pronounces Horus Lupercal as Horus La Purple, which is still hilarious. If you go back and play the game,
that's got to be two. That's got to be BFG. That's got to be Battlefield Gothic 2.
Yeah, it's super funny.
Because I wrote BFG 1, and I was like, that doesn't sound like anything I wrote.
But Abaddon managed to get 4 Chaos Lords, including a World Eater, a Emperor's Children, a Night Lords, and Typhus to go out and attack certain worlds. And this way it pulled Imperial defenses to those worlds. So that way, when his fleet actually emerged from the Eye of Terror, they weren't immediately met with conflict. They actually managed to get there and get out and start attacking and orbital bombarding the entire planet. I really, really, really like the idea that Abaddon is smart enough to do all of this. There is also a battle that took place around this time that isn't technically connected, but my brain connected these two because it takes place at the same time, and it's when the Dark Angels attack the Space Wolves. Because when the Changeling tricked the Dark Angels into attacking the Space Wolves, it's at M999, and it's right before the Space Wolves go to Cadia.
Okay. I hate to do this, but you are throwing out a lot of names right now that people may not know. So if you could just give us like 2 sentences on the Changeling, the Dark Angels, and the Space Wolves, that'd be great.
Okay, the Changeling is a demon that is a master of disguise, can turn itself into anything, and is very, 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 very hard to detect. In fact, it can infiltrate the Imperial Palace. It is insanely hard to figure out who the Changeling is. The Changeling is also a demon herald of Zinch, Zinch being the god of
The Chaos God.
uh, a chaos god of betrayal, thought, and magic.
Change.
Change. Um, uh, yeah. So that tricked the Dark Angels. The Dark Angels being the more brooding knights of the Warhammer world that like to keep secrets and everything. They were shown that the Space Wolves had Wolfen, which were mutants that were attacking. They were attacking civilians, and the Space Wolves were trying to deal with that. But they were trying to deal with that hush hush. But a corrupted Inquisitor sent all of that to the Dark Angels, and then the Dark Angels launched an attack because the Changeling told them so. Um,
The Dark Angels and Space Wolves are both Space Marine chapters, very famous and well established in the lore. Space Marine chapters who are rivals to one another. They both have their own secrets. The Dark Angels attacking Space Wolves is important because they have this long-standing rivalry. Please continue. I'm sorry. I just wanted to clarify.
okay. And during this battle, multiple Inquisitors had to get involved, including Bjorn the Fell-Handed being woken up. And then Bjorn hit on an Inquisitor, which is a great scene, by the way. He uses his dreadnought hand to move the hair out from under her, around her ear, and then lift her chin to look at him. And it's a scene that, like, I would think about how to make that work. But anyway, um, eventually the Inquisitor broke through and got to both Azrael and Logan Grimnar, told them to stop it and get together, and their forces are needed over in Cadia. The Inquisitor basically just said, "You have the Fallen, shut up about the Wolfen, let's leave." And the Dark Angels were like, "Hold on a sec, are we never going to address this?" No is the answer to that. It is never addressed again. But there is an Inquisitor that knows about the Fallen, and it's because the Fallen told her.
I do think that this is the first step in a storyline about the Fallen that we will see maybe this year, maybe next year, who knows? But soon, somewhere in the next few years, maybe next 10 years, we'll see something happen.
Yep. So all this to say that Magnus attacked the Space Wolves right after the Dark Angels attacked them. The Space Wolves' numbers were severely limited, and they took what they could to go on the final crusade against Abaddon. Oh, we haven't even gotten to Abaddon making it to the planet yet, and we're in an hour of this.
Just a lot of setup. So the ground campaign on Cadia is centered on a place called the Elysian Fields. This is the vast plains on Cadia where most of the Blackstone pylons were most densely concentrated. And Abaddon's strategy was to destroy or corrupt enough pylons to overload the null field that the pylons generated and allow demonic manifestation at a very large scale. This is the culmination of the Crimson Path plan. If enough demons could be summoned to Cadia's surface, the pylons would be overwhelmed, like Alexis was talking about earlier, and the Eye of Terror would swallow the planet, which would transform the whole thing into a demon world, and everybody would be screwed, basically.
And then the pylons could potentially be used to amplify the warp itself.
Abaddon's goal was to use this as a way to consume system after system after system all the way up to Terra. Didn't quite work out that way. but that's what he was aiming to do. Okay. Now, the defense of the planet was led by, as we mentioned, Lord Castellan Ursarker Creed, the most decorated officer in Cadian history. He had spent his career fighting chaos with a tactical genius that bordered. Well, no, it became the stuff of legend. Like when people talk about Ursarker Creed, there's always this sort of like he's a legendary tactical genius, and he was very good. Let's be super clear. He's very, very, very good. He's one of the greatest military commanders in Imperial history.
Yep.
The novel by Robert Rath, the 2023 novel, makes this a little more of a legend and a little less. It kind of humanizes Creed, where he's like capable of making mistakes and stuff like that. So if you're curious about that human side of Creed, go read the novel. And that brings us to the political dynamics of the Chaos Forces, because you had 4 representatives of the Chaos Gods, or at least representatives of all 4 Chaos Gods, and these were all constantly maneuvering against one another. And they were each seeking to position their chosen champion to gain dominance over the Black Legion and thereby over Abaddon. There was a guy called Urcanthos who represented Khorne, and he competed against
badass.
He competed against a guy called Devrim Korda, who's a Slanesh-aligned Chaos Lord, and they were each willing to sabotage the other, even at the cost of the Black Crusade itself. This internal friction gave the Imperial defenders several moments of unexpected reprieve. So don't think of Abaddon's forces as a big monolithic group either. They were squabbling amongst each other as they were attacking the planet.
I forgot to mention the Plague of Unbelief and the what was the cult that was started? The something of the Emperor, Voice of the Emperor.
Why don't you talk about this?
So the Plague Fleet sent out and started the Plague of Unbelief. I wish I wrote actual notes on this. I wrote the Plague of Unbelief and then ended it and moved on to the second point. Thanks, past me, for taking notes. That's great. But the Voice of the Emperor was so it started out as a rebellion against imperial rule, and then was slowly and methodically changed to being throwing over tyrannical rule, which in all fairness, that actually sounds like something that would, be done in the Imperium quite a bit, and it is done quite a bit. But then they started getting extra boosts all around, and they started getting support that they shouldn't get. Like Chaos Forces started infiltrating, Alpha Legion started infiltrating them and start spreading their voices all around the entire planet, until eventually the cult fell to chaos and became a full chaos cult called the Voice of the Emperor, which then started attacking the planets themselves. Kind of a Gene Stealer cult uprising type deal, which is really cool.
All right, so now we need to talk about Javura Morkath.
Which one was that?
Yeah, she's from the novel, Javura Morkath. She's Abaddon the Despoiler's daughter, quote unquote, and the commander of the Blackstone Fortress, the Will of Eternity. She's not a biological daughter of Abaddon, because Space Marines typically do not engage in reproduction. They have the equipment, they just typically don't have the urge, so they generally don't. Anyway, so Javura Morkath, she was artificially created by Abaddon's apothecaries, specifically as a being meant to command the Blackstone Fortress. And Abaddon implanted her with these fabricated memories of her past. So this kind of ensured her loyalty to him as her father, quote unquote. It made her believe that she was his actual child. And this gave Abaddon a lot of control over her, and thus over his most powerful weapon, which was the Blackstone Fortress. She had very limited control over the fortress, even though she'd been designed to command it, which is really important to keep in mind. And when at the culmination of the battle for Cadia, she is on board the Blackstone Fortress as it gets, when Abaddon orders it to crash into Cadia like a meteor and fracture the planet into pieces. It's kind of a betrayal, by Abaddon of his only daughter.
It totally is. It's such a dick move. He could have very easily gotten aborted and taken her off, and then did it.
And then he killed her after she completed the mission, because the Blackstone Fortress was damaged, but it wasn't fully destroyed or anything. So anyway, it's one of the most heartbreaking moments in the novel, because she is kind of one of the POV characters in the novel. Yep. And it also, she is a very sympathetic character, because she did try to earn her father's approval at every step, only to be betrayed and killed by him at the end. So,
Ross, can you repeat the name?
Dravura Morcath.
Okay, chat was asking.
Sorry, Dravura Morcath. And she represents the tragedy of loyalty to chaos. She was created for a singular purpose. She was given false memories and artificial love, if you want to think of it that way. But she was used as a weapon, and she was discarded the moment that her usefulness ended.
And this isn't the first time Abaddon has done something like this. He took, what was it, Kion's sister, and shoved her into a tube to be the machine spirit of the vengeful spirit.
Right.
And then she died also. Abaddon likes to kill children. It's very weird.
I mean, he is a cartoon villain in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
All right, so let's briefly talk about some of the other people who were there. Would you pick one of the following: Call, Trazine, or Saint Celestine, and talk about them?
I want to talk about all of them. All right, let me go.
Well, if you want to, you can. Go ahead.
So Saint Celestine is the living saint of the Order of Our Martyred Lady. As far as we know, though her armor is gold, so she can actually be for any of them. She has the ability that when she dies, she can rebirth herself, and all living saints have this ability.
Resurrect herself.
Yeah, resurrect herself.
You really don't want to go down that other road, I promise you.
No.
This is the internet.
You didn't hear that first part. She can resurrect herself. But she is extremely powerful. She has a very powerful connection to the Emperor themselves. She does, when she dies, return to the Emperor's domain, which is within the Eye of Terra. Sorry, not the Eye of Terra. It's within the warp, within the Astronomicon's beacon. She lives in the golden light of the Astronomicon. So when things like the pylon networks are activated and turned off, she does get depowered for a moment. But she can still fight in null fields. So the story is very inconsistent. And I will state this: it is extremely inconsistent whether or not her powers are warp-based or soul-based. It was retconned later on to just be soul-based.
We have a whole episode on the power of faith in 40k. If you're curious about how this all works, we spent 3 hours discussing it with Vera. So go check that out.
Yes. Celestine is instrumental in the attack against the forces of chaos. She defeated all of the greater demons that were summoned onto the planet. She defeated 4 greater demons in one fight before facing down against Abaddon, where Abaddon only beat her because the pylon network was activated and null fields were activated, and she fell down. And then Abaddon beat the hell out of her, or beat the Emperor out of her, I guess. Anyway, Celestine represents the faith of the Imperium itself. She has the ability to resurrect other characters. She can grant acts of faith, which are reality augmenting beliefs similar to the power of belief that orcs have, or orcs did have. Sisters have, just flat out, kind of.
I would argue they're not similar at all, but
from an outside perspective, not an interior perspective,
they are supernatural effects. I guess you could go. Yes. You'd start there.
But she is an incredibly capable fighter. She has giant wings, and she's the sister of battle. She's awesome, and she's also a lesbian, which makes her even better.
And she's accompanied by her Gemini Superia, which are 2 supernaturally enhanced canonesses of the Sisters of Battle, Eleanor and Genevieve.
Yep.
So she's a little unit.
And they've both died 3 times in this battle. In fact, the Demon Prince that we're going to talk about mentions it. He's like, "What?
How do you keep coming back?
What is this? What the heck is happening?" Then we have Belisarius Call.
Wait, just want to clarify really quick. Celestine was also very. She was very instrumental in inspiring the defenders of Cadia. She was a rallying point, and every time anyone saw the living saint, it restored everyone's drive and determination, resolve. She single-handedly was responsible for keeping many battle lines from falling back. And
she also totally would have killed Abaddon if he didn't have plot armor.
And at the end of the Fall of Cadia, she ends up leading most of the survivors, the evacuation of the survivors, which leads to the resurrection of Rabuta Gilliman, which is, there's a long story. I don't want to go down that route because that's a whole separate thing from the Fall of Cadia. But let's just say being on Cadia during the Fall of Cadia is important because then it leads to even other major events afterwards.
Now, Belisarius Call, the fabricator. Well, he is not a fabricator general. He's a Magos Dominus.
Archmagos Dominus.
Yes. So he's very high up there in terms of like the hierarchy of Mars. Mm-hmm. Granted, his peers don't like him too much.
No, he's a very controversial figure.
Mostly because of his radical ideas of making the Emperor's work better and totally not making AI.
Tinkering with existing technology, which is bad according to the most dogmatic elements of the Cult Omnissiah, which is the church of the tech priests of Mars, to which this guy belongs. And he's also he's committed the sin of creating new technology, which is again verboten according to the Cult Mechanicus. So he's a very controversial figure, but nevertheless has managed to achieve a huge amount of influence and power within the Adeptus Mechanicus, which are the tech priests of Mars.
Belisarius Call is over 10,000 years old. He existed in the Horus Heresy. He was a minor character. And then Gilliman randomly was like, Belisarius Call, I need you to start the Primaris project. Okay, I'm going to go get killed. This is definitely not a retcon. Okay, bye.
He's arguably the most brilliant mind in the Imperium.
Yes. In fact, he has multiple minds. I think in one of his books, he mentions he has 11. He is an amalgamation of beings that call themselves Belisarius Call. So he quite literally is a they-them.
The name Belisarius is also from history. It's the name of one of the greatest generals of the ancient world who served the emperor. He served the Byzantine emperor, and what was his name? The emperor, his wife was Theodora. Is it Diocletian? I don't remember. Anyway, if you're curious about Belisarius, he's an amazing, interesting historical figure. Go Google Belisarius and look at it. It's a really fun name. That's all I'm saying. Justinian, thank you, Justinian. Yeah, the emperor. He served the Emperor Justinian in the Byzantine Empire. Anyway, Belisarius Call. You were saying, please continue.
So Belisarius Call is a tinkerer and loves to experiment with ancient alien technologies. He, according to himself, perfectly understood the Pylon network. He had no idea.
Cuisine was like, yeah, no, you don't, buddy.
Yeah, but he has an willingness to work with anybody.
Including Necron Lords.
Necrons, Eldar, undead Eldar, humans, everything. And if he finds a very valuable mind in a human, well, he just adds it to his collection. He's also made he's made 2 AIs, one of himself and one of Reboot Gilliman. They're totally not AIs, but in the Battle of Cadia, he was instrumental in getting the Pylon network active alongside bringing his Battleclave. I think it's called a Battleclave, right?
Yes.
When they all go to war.
There's many names for it, but yeah, it's one of the names for the forces of the Mechanicum. He led a massive force there to help. Him and a guy called Magus Clarn, working alongside Trazine the Infinite, they managed to activate the null field of the pylons to deflect the warp cannon blast of the Blackstone Fortress. The Will of Eternity unleashed its warp cannon, blasting the planet. And thanks to Call and Clarn and Trazine, they managed to like bounce that shit off the planet. Imagine the Death Star firing at Alderaan and it goes, pew!
Yeah. Well, not only that, they actually shattered, prior to that, they shattered the void shields around the planet. So that was going to be the death beam of the entire world, because a world in Warhammer 40k has several, if it's a very important world, will have several void shield generators around the entire planet to protect the planet from blasts that could destroy the entire planet. They could stop cyclonic torpedoes, nova cannons, and all sorts of weapons that could destroy an entire planet. Like, keep in mind, these are weapons designed to destroy the core of the planet and obliterate it, similar to that of the Death Star shooting. So with all of that, the Belisarius Call, he's the one that kept that tech active and then helped with the pylon network, as well as leading his battle conclave against everything. He was doing all of that at once. So he was doing millions of calculations, and all of them are wrong.
Yeah, he's also the guy who created the Primaris Space Marines under the command of Gilliman. And so one of the major events after the fall of Cadia was the arrival of the Primaris Space Marines, which were the creations of Belisarius Call. So would you be okay if I talked about Trazyn?
Yes, but there is a comment here that's really funny.
You know, they can't stop a void shield. Yeah, void shield cannot stop a ship the size of a moon being yeeted at it. Neither can Call and the Clarn.
Hear me out. That shield could. They actually had to lead a separate assault to stop it so that they could, and they only had a moment, and Abaddon realized that they couldn't charge their cannon in time, and the cannon was and the Blackstone Fortress was being destroyed by Space Wolves. So they just threw the Blackstone Fortress at the planet while they had the time to do so, because if they didn't in that exact moment, they would have reactivated the shields and the planet would have been saved.
Void shields are interesting because they basically shunt any attack into the warp. But we're not here to talk about what void shields are, although we could. Super chat before we forget about it. Biofoot, thank you, Biofoot. Abby is really coming for Big E's throne. Worst father ever awards are going to be really interesting this year. Maybe Big E's streak as the worst parent ever is over. I mean, there's an interesting parallel. That is a very interesting parallel between Abaddon and the Emperor. They are both terrible fathers. Very good, Biofoot. Very funny. I like that.
Talk about the other person.
Trazyn the Infinites. Possibly the most darkly comedic elements in the Fall of Cadia is the arrival of Trazyn the Infinite. He's an ancient Necron overlord from the Nihilak dynasty and the most notorious collector of rarities in the galaxy. He has a vast collection on his tomb world called Solemnance, and it includes items like the preserved heart of Sebastian Thor, or preserved head of Sebastian Thor, to entire captured military units that he leaves, that he carries around with him inside what are called Tesseract vaults, which is little devices. So when the 13th Black Crusades began, there were things in Trazyn's collection that activated that told him this was going to occur. So he was alerted to the crisis and showed up. His motivations, though, were characteristically his own. He does not love the Imperium, but he does have a deep investment in history, and he does absolutely oppose chaos. So that's why he showed up on Cadia.
He also has a thing for Call.
I mean, he seems to be lonely. Let's put it that way.
He really likes talking to beings that he believes they're not at his level, but they're good for a conversation. So he actually really likes Belisarius Call.
He worked alongside Call to activate the null field against the warp cannon, but he also brought along with him a bunch of things that he had collected over the years, which was like in the novel. I think this is a force of Grey Knights and other regiments of Imperial Guard, but also Inquisitor Greyfax was one of the things he had collected, and he released her as well. So he opened up all his Pokeballs and brought his entire Pokemon card deck to play against Chaos.
Now,
And that was so Trazyn alone is a pretty solid dude. He's an important guy with a lot of tricks up his sleeve, but he also brought an entire army in his pocket, several armies in his
I
pocket.
do want to point out some of the stuff that he brought. He brought the second company captain of the Ultramarines and an entire battle squad of Ultramarines in Cataphractii and Tartaros Terminator armor. He brought Contemptor Dreadnoughts with him. He brought a whole bunch of things from the Horus Heresy with him. This was GW's way of actually selling Horus Heresy products that weren't selling too well in the Heresy to 40k to get rid of them for second edition Heresy. So it was really funny to see all of this stuff get added. Like out of nowhere, you just have Bind Shackled Scarab Ultramarines fighting against everything. And then Abaddon had to kill somebody that he knew, which was super weird for him. Because could you imagine you haven't seen your buddy in like 30, 40 years, and then suddenly he's on a battlefield against you, and you're just like, wait, what?
Yeah, Professor Shep says it was crazy when Abaddon looked and saw Custodes running around, but he knew.
Yeah.
The entire collection of Mark 9 power armor.
Yeah.
All right, so this is a comment I wanted to address. Lichlord Kier says Abaddon watched some UC Gundam before they reached Cadia that day and figured out, why not try that? So for people who don't know, UC Gundam is a series of giant robot shows, and almost every one revolves, well, not everyone, many of them revolve around this idea of space colonies being dropped onto Earth as a weapon of mass destruction. And this is referencing the Blackstone Fortress being dropped onto Cadia. So the pylons were broken. Despite every defensive measure, the pylons were progressively destroyed during the course of the battle by direct assault, by demon possession, by orbital bombardments, and by attrition. So Abaddon, he understood exactly what he needed to destroy. The Chaos Forces they weren't just trying to win a military conquest, they were executing a very precise demolition plan against very specific targets. Now, the fact that it looks like conquest is because, again, most of the Chaos Forces didn't know they weren't, they were kind of under a very light control. They were like, hey, go that way, kill everyone, was kind of the order. There wasn't a lot of grand strategy in the in the hordes, but the generals on Abaddon's side knew what they were doing. And as the pylons fell, demonic manifestations started to speed up on Cadia. So you had warp storms forming. You had the Eye of Terror visibly expanding in the sky as this was going on. It was, honestly, I would have lost my damn mind and probably just been gibbering in a trench somewhere, because the idea of seeing all this happen is crazy to me.
Nah, there's a crazy angel lady fighting them.
Right. Well, that's helpful.
We got to fight alongside the crazy angel lady.
That's probably helpful. But this all ends up with the death blow of Cadia, the will of eternity. So when the battle on the ground started to turn against Abaddon, because it did, Creed and Celestine and Call and Shazine, all these big names, all these massive amounts of guardsmen and Space Marines and Sisters of Battle, they were doing it. They were winning the defense of Cadia. And there was this incredibly fierce last stand. And Abaddon was like, okay, we have to get rid of this. This is not going to, I will not be stopped here.
There are certain things that happen, there's a lot that happens here. One of them is a guy turns into a demon prince, leads his forces against Celestine, tries to damage the pylon. The pylon is fully activated, one of the last pylons, and actually starts closing the Eye of Terror. And then Abaddon is like, you need to push everything into this right now. The entire Chaos Force just emerged on this one point. Celestine was fighting it. Creed was fighting it. All the Space Marine captains were there. Once the null field was activated, after Celestine banished 4 greater demons, and then finally killed the World Eater's Demon Prince, who was happy because now he doesn't have to be there when the planet is destroyed. which is a weird thing to say when you're going to get tortured and beaten the shit out of by corn demons once you get back. But anyway, Celestine hit the ground. Abaddon beat the hell out of the Space Marine characters. Creed stood there, raised his fists, and is just like, "Come on!"
Abaddon kills Kel, the color sergeant, who basically jumps in the way to give Creed a chance to escape, but he is cut. But Kel is cut down by Abaddon.
Yeah, Creed is then impaled upon the Talon of Horus, still fighting, mind you. He literally spits in Abaddon's face before he dies. Abaddon tosses him to the ground, and in the last moment, right before he's about to do his victory speech, Celestine stands up, drives her sword through his spine, right through his spine, through his heart, and nearly kills him. And he's just like, holy crap, plot armor activate, and teleported away.
That was one of the most grievous wounds Abaddon's ever sustained. Celestine's weapon is called the Ardent Blade. And we have spoken a little bit about this in the past, and we will do a whole episode on Celestine in the future. So,
do you know what's really fun about a living saint hitting something that's demonic? That power doesn't return to its god.
I mean,
it's gone.
It's heavily implied that she can permanently destroy demons.
Yep.
So the thing I want to mention about Erskine Creed here is that this was his final stand. He fought to the very, very end, and his body was discovered by a towering figure in a scaled cloak whose laughter followed him into unconsciousness. The last thing Creed sees is what is heavily implied to be Trazen the Infinite taking him into his collection.
Yeah, which is actually later confirmed on Warhammer Plus when they talk about Trazen. You see Creed in the background.
Well, his current status is it's an unresolved thread in the current lore. Warhammer Plus did show him, I guess. I mean, I haven't seen it, but I'm assuming you have, and he's actually there. Okay,
he's in a stasis vault.
A Tesseract vault. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's Creed, but now we need to talk about the Will of Eternity. Dun dun dun.
Yeah. Can you handle this while I run to the bathroom real quick?
Of course, absolutely. I will. There you go. So, the Will of Eternity, the death blow of Cadia. With the battle on the ground being not good for Abaddon, he decided, okay, I don't want this planet to exist anymore. It just can't exist anymore, because if it exists, if the pylons are turned against us, it's going to go really, really badly. So he made his decision, which the Will of Eternity, the Blackstone Fortress, was already pretty heavily damaged from the battles in space. And there are a lot of stuff that happens in the battles of space that we have just glossed over. This is a massive fight. But it was already damaged. And it wasn't fully under his control at any point. And he'd already tried to blow up the planet with the warp cannon, which, as we talked about, Klarn and Call and Trazen helped deflect that. So he was, I brought this thing along for a reason, and then it's not doing anything. I'm going to crash it into the planet, so at least it does something, for crying out loud. And Abaddon ordered it to ram into Cadia. The planet, well, the impact, I should say, of the Blackstone Fortress it's really, really big, you guys. It's really big. It was cataclysmic. The rest of the pylon network was wiped out because the planet basically just fractured. Cadia shattered into pieces, and the planet was broken apart and then consumed by the warp, because the last restraints on the Eye of Terror were gone. And in that moment, the phrase Cadia stands became, oh, there she is.
But how do you switch that? There we go. There we go.
In the moment that Cadia shattered into pieces, the phrase Cadia stands became the most bitter irony in the galaxy.
Yeah.
Now
something is happening in Victor's game right now, so I gotta tell him to shut up.
So now we talk about the aftermath. Alexis, now that you've returned, would you like to discuss the aftermath of the fall of Cadia?
But okay, so did we talk about the Eldar coming to the rescue?
I haven't spoken about them yet. If you want to get into that before the aftermath, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, so
because Eldrad was there, Ulthway was there, the Yanari were there.
Yep, whole bunch of stuff started showing up. So what wound up happening is towards the end of the campaign, Celestine had the Emperor told her where to go, and yes, I did.
Byfoot asked her if you washed her hands.
Look, years of being a streamer, you learn how to do things fast. But anyway, so Celestine had a premonition. Voice of the Emperor told her to go somewhere. So she grabbed all of her forces and told them to go to a certain place. I believe it was the moon, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember exactly where she pulled them to, but there was a dormant Eldari gate there. And then, right on cue, as Celestine showed up, the gate activated and Yvraine came out, the emissary of Yanari. The emissary of the Yanari, or
Iniad.
Iniad. Thank you, Brain. And they came with a force to fight against chaos as well. And they helped all of these survivors, well, a good chunk of them, escape through the webway.
Mm-hmm.
And this allowed them to actually get off of world and allowed Celestine and Yvraine to not talk to each other because, again, they never talk. Celestine just doesn't talk to people. She must be afraid of them or something. She's like super badass.
She's very socially awkward.
Like she only talks to Greyfax. It's very strange. Like she's an artwork of Gilliman. She's an artwork of Yvraine, and they never had a conversation in any of the books. It's very strange, and I love it. I think it's hilarious, and I want that to continue. But she goes with them to Gilliman, and the others. So weirdly enough, in one of the Yvraine books, it's heavily implied that, I mean, yeah, probably. It's heavily implied that some of the Tempestus Scions actually stayed with Yvraine. This is the ultimate showdown of ultimate destiny. Good guys, bad guys, and explosions.
As far as, I can see.
And only one will survive.
I wonder who it will be. Oh, God.
Anyway. God, we're old.
We really are.
Also, Celestine did save Greyfax on the battlefield and bring her with them. But Yvraine's timely arrival is also the moment that Trazine left, which is, really funny that happened. So yeah, Celestine and Yvraine don't. Celestine and Greyfax don't do a lot of talking. Yeah, it's also heavily implied that Gilliman interrupted them at one point. I'm sorry. The quote from the book is hastily put together to be presentable in front of a Primarch.
Well, I can talk about the aftermath and then we can get into the evacuation,
Yes,
which leads to
that.
a lot of weird places. So with the aftermath of the fall of Cadia is what's called the Cicatrix Maledictum, or the Great Rift.
No, Gork's Grin.
Or Gork's Grin. Cadia's pylons were destroyed, the warp suppression network is gone, and that means the warp could no longer be contained. What followed was the emergence of the Great Rift, a colossal warp storm that split the galaxy in half. It was a tear in reality that went from one end of the Milky Way to the other. And so on the galactic west, you have what's called the Imperium Sanctus. This is the relatively stable part of the Imperium. On the galactic east, you have what's called the Imperium Nihilus, which is plunged into what they call the Noctis Eterna, or the Great Darkness, and it is almost overwhelmed by demonic incursions and warp storms. It is incredibly dangerous and under siege on that side.
Dark Angels are totally fine.
The warp storm, splitting the galaxy into these two pieces, it claimed countless worlds. Systems were destroyed with no warning, no psychic communications, no navigational aids. They were just consumed by the sudden expansion of warp storms throughout the galaxy. Time distortions that had previously been localized, they spread across the galaxy. Basically, some worlds experienced centuries and moments, others were frozen in temporal stasis. It was a massive cataclysm. In the lore, the origins of the rift are a little hazy. It might be related to some of the things that Magnus the Red did when he was attacking the homeworld of the Space Wolves, Fenris. It might be. It might have something to do with the awakening of Iniad, which is the Eldar god of the dead. It might have something to do with the destruction of the pylons. It might be all of these things. It might be cumulative psychic shock from mass carnage across multiple war zones all at the same time. This is what happened on Rift's Earth when nuclear war went off. It's like all the deaths all at once caused big things to happen. So maybe that's related. But it's possible.
You would think with this massive amount of casualties or something that a Chaos God would have been born. In fact, this could have been Vashtor's birth.
This could have been. It absolutely could have been.
I did find a piece of art that I really want to show of just what it means when I say that a shield was put around a planet.
Oh, look at that. Yeah, that's a Blackstone Fortress in the foreground there.
Yes, this is official Games Workshop art, so I wanted to make sure. This is when the Will of Eternity fired upon Cadia, and Cadia just went, nope.
Yeah, but those aren't void shields. That's the stuff that Call and Clarn and Trazeen built. They use the pylons to divert it because it's warp energy. Again, it's really weird that Blackstone Fortresses use warp cannons, which, I mean, it kind of means that the Eldari built it because Eldar could definitely use warp cannons.
Nope,
but they made it out of
monkeys.
But they made it out of Noctilith, which is Decron stuff, which is weird. Anyway, the Blackstone Fortresses are weird. That's all you really need to know. And they can blow up planets.
They can also superheat stars and cause them to go supernova. Or completely destroy them.
Well, there's a lot of stuff Blackstone Fortresses are said to be able to do. I don't know if we've ever seen one destroy a star, but...
we did in Battlefleet Gothic 2.
Oh, did we? Okay, well...
Yeah, in the Battlefleet Gothic story as well, they destroy a star, like an actual star.
That's right. That's right, but that was multiple fortresses. That wasn't...
Yes, it was multiple fortresses.
It wasn't just 4 of them. It wasn't just one, yeah.
Yeah, I want to be clear on that.
So the survivors of Cadia, which include Celestine and Call and Greyfax, a whole bunch of Black Templars for some reason, they escaped through the webway with the help of the Eldari, including a newly emerged faction called the Yinari, who are the devotees of the Eldar death god Iniad. This coalition ended up naming itself the Celestinian Crusade, and they went
after Saint Celestine.
Indeed, they did, and they went towards Ultramar through the webway. Macragge, the capital world of Ultramar, and homeworld of the Ultramarines, Space Marines. This is where Call and his hidden cargo was revealed. He had built the technology, a suit of armor that he claimed would help bring the Primarch Rubute Guilliman back to life. Guilliman is one of the Emperor's lost demigod-like sons. He had been frozen in a stasis field after his throat was cut 10,000 years ago.
Yep,
and he was like several.
And the rumor was back in the day that he was slowly recovering.
Yeah,
but yeah.
With the assistance of Celestine and the Yinari, Call successfully brought Guilliman back to life. And for the first time in 10,000 years, a Primarch walked the Earth a Primarch was walking around in Warhammer 40k. Guilliman, go ahead.
There is something really funny that Yvraine had to do.
Yes.
Which was kill him.
She had to kill him in order to resurrect him.
Yep. Like, Guilliman is technically both dead and alive at the same time.
Well, no, he was dying, and then in order to bring him back fully,
they had to
kill him so that he be under Iniad's aegis, if you will.
Yeah.
It's complicated.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So Gilliman, who's now resurrected, he immediately, well, he assumes the title. I wouldn't say immediately, but he definitely assumes the title of the Lord Commander of the Imperium and Imperial Regents. There's a lot of stuff that happens to get there, but I'm pushing because we don't have forever to talk about this.
Yeah.
And so he then creates what's called the Indomitus Crusade, which is the largest military offensive in Imperial history since the Great Crusade. It's a big deal, the Indomitus Crusade. And this is intended to stabilize the shattered Imperium and push back against the forces that were unleashed by the Great Rift. And this is when Call distributes all the Primera Space Marines, which were improved Space Marines, basically, featuring new organs and new gear. And they were deployed across every chapter that they could reach, that the Indomitus Crusade could reach, as reinforcements. And it also allowed Games Workshop to replace all the old models with new models. Hey,
What?
hey.
Games Workshop making you every 3 editions buy Space Marines again?
Right.
That has never happened in the history of forever. Games Workshop has never upscaled their Marines and then just discontinued the old ones, forcing you to buy all new Marines.
Do you want to say anything more about the aftermath before I go to other aspects?
So there are some funny moments. One with Abaddon severely injured. He couldn't maintain control over his warbands anymore. So they just kind of started ravaging everything that they could get their hands on, which actually allowed worlds like Agapina to start defending itself, which is super funny that the second that Abaddon fell in the conflict, well, he didn't die. He simply, got stabbed through the spine, both his hearts, and, out the front end, but that doesn't kill a character that has a name. Just like 4 claws that impale you completely doesn't actually kill you if you have a name. Unless you're Sanguinius.
Well, Sanguinius, yeah, there's more going on there.
But anyway, once he lost control of his forces, a lot of the Chaos Primarchs started calling back their sons because they weren't quite happy with how he was controlling them. Mortarion was upset that Abaddon was just killing and not letting diseases spread and everything like that. Magnus was getting upset that he wasn't following the exact plan that they laid out. Angron was upset that he was caging his boys, like, no, let them slaughter. Who's the last one? Why am I drawing a blank on the last Demon Primarch? Mortarion, Angron,
Magnus.
Oh, Fulgrim didn't care. I completely forgot about Fulgrim because in Fulgrim's own book, he mentions it and he just goes, yeah, it's whatever. I'm going to send one of my greater demons to go and deal with Gilliman. It didn't work. But Fulgrim's book is kind of a huge letdown, unfortunately.
True. But what is not a letdown is what the universe did with the Cadians afterwards. So Cadia as a physical world was gone, consumed by the warp. But the Cadian people were not extinguished, and they had been exporting regiments for millennia. So they were basically scattered across the galaxy and therefore not dead. The Cadian shock troops, they continued to serve as one of the most renowned regiments of the Astra Militarum. They carried their world's name and their traditions into a galaxy that had fundamentally changed around them. The long-term cultural survival of the Cadians, however, is genuinely uncertain. The institutional infrastructure, like the White Shields, the academies, the generational transmission of tactical doctrine against chaos, none of that can be replicated. And the diaspora, which is what you say when people leave their homeworld and scatter, across a wide region, they're going to have children. Those children are going to be born on ships and new worlds, and they will adopt, children of other cultures. The institutional memory of thousands of years of continuous warfare against chaos and the military doctrine of Cadia, that may be irreplaceable.
Yep. But remember, Cadia stands. And
So,
can I talk about the creed real quick?
oh yeah,
The creed. So Cadia stands went from the planet itself to a mindset of the Cadians themselves, and anyone who was put into the Cadians um, from other regiments that were dispersed throughout the galaxy. So when a regiment breaks in the guard and they have like two different regiments, they'll throw them both together and just be like, "Whatever you are, what are you calling yourselves?" And a lot of the times when this happened, the Cadians just the people that were thrown into their regiments just adopted the name Cadians, but they didn't have the purple eyes. Cadians did look down on non-Cadian Cadians, but for the longest, for a very long time, they started revering the newbies. They started liking them because the newbies fell into the mindset of the Cadians. Because while the planet is gone, the Cadians are still there. They'll still fight until their last breaths because Cadia stands. And whenever they are asked, like, can you hold the line? They'll send back a note saying Cadia stands. Whenever they're told to do something that is going to kill all of them, they reply with Cadia stands. In Space Marine 2, if you walk around a couple of guardsmen that are debating whether or not they can win this war, an actual Cadian will look at them and be like, Cadia stands. Cadians are a very, very dogmatic people. They will keep fighting until the very, very bitter end, until they are all killed.
yeah. The phrase it underwent a transformation in the aftermath of the fall of Cadia. It was no longer a declaration of the endurance of a planet. It became something more complicated. It's a statement of identity carried by a diaspora. It was a refusal to let the idea of Cadia die, even as the world had been annihilated. In the new era, the Indomitus era, era Indomitus, I think is what they call it. Cadian regiments fight across every war zone in the galaxy, and their descendants, whether they have violet eyes or not, they serve as living monuments to a world that held the line for 10,000 years. Okay, now let's talk about there's an important narrative significance here. The decision to make the fall of Cadia the climax of the 13th Black Crusade, this required Games Workshop to, as we said, retcon a lot of Abaddon's reputation, and it rehabilitated him as a villain.
Yep. They gave him depth that he never had. They let Aaron Densky Bowden have his way with him. Because that's like, you need a good villain. You just go, Aaron, make this guy that stupid work. What are these guys? They're spooky people with lightning bolts on them. Aaron looks at it. I got this. Writes the best trilogy in the Heresy.
Yeah, he's very good at that stuff. He of course, worked with me on Wrath of Glory.
Hell yeah.
The Gilead sector is a creation of, it's partially created by Aaron Nifsky-Bowden. Anyway, moving on. Gilead system, not sector. Apologies. So for decades, the name of Abaddon was one that people would remember for being 0 for 12 on the Black Crusades, and it sort of calcified into lore that he was a villain who never quite delivered on his apocalyptic potential. He was a joke, Failbadon,
Yeah.
Or Abby was a lot of names in the 90s. We called him Abby. This retcon, this establishing that each Black Crusade was a calculated step in order to destroy the pylon network. This was a very narratively elegant solution because it helped Abaddon look a lot more competent, and having him succeed by destroying Cadia and split the galaxy in half, that really elevated Abaddon from, yeah, he's supposed to be the main bad guy, but he doesn't really do much, to, holy shit, this dude just changed everything. And there were critics. The counter arguments made by a lot of more long-term Games Workshop fans was that the original lore had never really explicitly described the Crusades as failures. It was always implied that Abaddon was advancing some sort of larger game. So the idea that this was that each of the previous crusades had been a strategic retreat rather than an unwinnable position. That was sensible rather than shameful. And so Games Workshop basically took a fan theory and formalized it. And this something that most people thought was implicit in the writing, Games Workshop was like, hey, it's important to point out this is a smart move by Games Workshop to really study what people are saying, what they're thinking, and then act on it in a way that everyone was like, whoa. It was a big revelation, especially for me, because I was in the midst of working on Wrath of Glory when this happened. Now, there is another layer of complexity here, Alexis. You of course know that there was a second Black Crusade, 13th Black Crusade.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk about that?
So the first Black Crusade, it did involve Eldar and a whole bunch of other things.
The first 13th Black Crusade.
Yeah. And it was a global campaign, and eventually GW backed down from the decision that Chaos won. Because they won the global campaign. They flat out won, because Chaos back then was insanely overpowered. Like 4th edition, 3rd edition Chaos Space Marines were the strongest that they've ever been. And then they kind of just undid it and then made that story not canon anymore and changed a bunch of stuff. But in the Gathering Storm, they do mention that there was a pre-13th Black Crusade before it. And then that was the first wave of the 13th Black Crusade. And the second wave was the actual Black Crusade. So it's like they did a nod to it in the current version. But the older version was, it involved, what the hell is that guy's name? Mungden Ra fighting Abaddon. It involved like
having a one-way rivalry, remember? Like, you are my archenemy. I don't even know who you are.
Although, I was reading through the Fall of Cadia again, and apparently the Phoenix Lords do actually get involved.
Do they?
Yeah, they're just slightly mentioned, though. Like, it's like, they fought, and that's it. And it's like nothing though. Like it's a nothing burger. I believe I read it. Hang on. Let's see if I can find it in my notes.
That seems unusual to me. Because you think they'd be mentioned in the yeah, I think it was just Elfway and Elfway Warhosts and the Inari. I don't think the Phoenix Lords were there.
I think like one of them was, well, not mentioned. I think it might have just been the Altarks then.
Okay. Well, there were definitely Altarks there, but not Phoenix Lords.
Oh wait, here it is. Boop. Many Crone worlds around the Eye of Terror came under attack from Chaos forces. This is the battle for Cadian Gate. And Immortal Phoenix Lords would lead the Eldar defenses in Belia's 4 system.
Okay, yeah. Well, it definitely was not on Cadia. Let's just be really clear about that.
It was, they were around.
Yeah, there were a lot of stuff going. There was a lot of stuff happening around the Fall of Cadia. There was the Drukhari took advantage of the chaos to do a lot more raids.
Tyranids attacked for some reason.
There were Orc warlords raiding around. There was stuff happening outside of it, but they were not actually present.
Also, I do want to mention that out of all of this, the thing that kind of bugs me a little bit, orcs are attracted to planets with lots and lots and lots of violence. Not once have, like, during the Black Crusades, did the orcs ever just get, like, fully involved in it? Like, all right, let's go killing.
So, just a couple more statements, and then we could talk about some other fun stuff. But Belisarius Cawl, this was his introduction. The Gathering Storm books was the first time we got to know who he was. And he has emerged as one of the most important characters in the lore after this moment.
In fact, he was the only playable character for the Admex faction for the tabletop game. The only named character for almost 20 years. Which is hilarious. They've never had, like,
it's only been
named character.
It's only been 9 years since 2017.
No, I mean before then too. They've never had like a named character.
Oh, okay. Well, all right, fair enough. If you want, yeah, okay.
From the Skitarii books original like printing till now, They did technically for a little bit have a named techno-archaeologist, but then his name got deleted in an update.
Whoops.
Because he was a named techno-archaeologist, but he wasn't an epic character, so that was just the name of all techno-archaeologists.
Well, so call after Fall of Cadia, he dedicated himself to pursuing the possibility of using technology to close the Great Rift. And this is a project of unimaginable scope, and it may never reach completion, but it is something he's working on. The Great Rift itself, this Cactrix maledictum, it is the defining geographic and cosmological feature of the current 40k setting, the Era Indomitus. It is a wound in reality through which everything that followed has poured. So the Great Rift, that's the most important and biggest thing that happened after this. Now, Abaddon, it's important to point out, he did not fulfill his ultimate objective. The Crimson Path was supposed to lead him on a road to Terra and the final death of the Emperor, but instead, the Great Rift consumed half the galaxy indiscriminately, denied him the clean corridor of conquest he wanted, and triggered the resurrection of a Primarch he had good reason to fear.
Yeah, it
Well,
turns out
two,
Chaos.
if you count the Lion.
Yeah, the Lion coming back, and possibly even Korax coming back. But we don't know about that one yet.
I'll believe that when I see it.
Yeah, exactly.
In
But
true,
Chaos lying to a Chaos guy, what? You can't even trust Chaos anymore.
What is more grimdark than that, though? I mean, I would argue that is the greatest Chaos victory in 10 millennium produces consequences no one had fully anticipated. What?
Yeah.
Cadia fell, the galaxy broke, nobody won.
I would still give the W to Chaos.
I mean, yeah, you could certainly argue that it was a W for Chaos. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
A dub.
And during the Great Rift itself, there were so many different factions that actually became more active. The Leagues of Votann got discovered. Like, they were just chilling. They were completely fine near the Tau, just totally cool and everything. Cicatrix Maledictum tears across the galaxy. Oh, guess it's time to go and settle some grudges.
All right, so we got a super chat here. Elemental Exposure became a member. Thank you for being a member, Elemental Exposure. He says, I expect Games Workshop to turn Cadia into a Creed like in Star Wars? SW?
I was either thinking that or Space Wolves, and Space Wolves don't make no sense.
Yeah, I'm guessing. I don't know. Help me out, Elemental Exposure.
I'm gonna go with sex workers.
So, question for you, Alexis. Would you rather talk about the fan reaction or the fan theories first?
Well, there is some things that I want to mention prior to this, if that's okay.
You know what? You go right ahead. I'm going to sit back.
So now it's no secret that I consider this the end times of 40k. And when I say that, I don't mean that 40k ended. I mean that it was the end of an era and the beginning of something new. I saw what 7th edition was, and 7th edition was hands down the absolute worst edition of Warhammer 40k. You cannot convince me otherwise. And all I have to say is Gorgon's Chain. And the people who played through 7th edition know what that is. It was a horrible edition. But in 7th edition, a lot of the fans started getting tired. Yep. Tired and bored with the hobby itself. There was nothing that looked really good. And GW soft relaunched the edition itself. They made all new Space Marines. They made all new kits. They replaced all of the old things. I kind of do wish at this point they just killed off the baby Marines and just said everything was Primaris. That would have just been a much better way of doing it, in my opinion. You would have lost some longtime fans, but that's okay, because then we wouldn't have this whole trickling effect that we have with current edition, where it's like, oh, the land speeder, but it's Primaris now. Isn't that cool? And it's like, no, it's a land speeder. Land speeders are dumb. They die too quickly. But anyway, I digress about that. When 8th edition was launched, we got a whole bunch of new Marines. We got a brand new box set. We got it in the first time post everything that has happened. planets moved around in the galactic map, and we actually joke about this. I was talking with Remlays about this a couple of years ago at this point, where we've noticed that certain planets move to certain locations. GW really needed to start copywriting a lot of their work because they simply didn't understand British copyright, which is hilarious for a $4 billion company. They still operate much like a mom and pop company, which is super funny. They're very protective over their IP, which is good. You want to be protective over your IP. But this was a way of them redoing all of the most popular faction to get everyone to buy Marines again. It really was down to a creative choice to sell miniatures. And I think that's totally fine and completely okay. We got a brand new map. We got a bunch of campaigns. Most of the campaigns have kind of sucked, though. I will be real with you. A lot of the campaigns have been completely forgettable. The most interesting one was the Necron one, the Pariah Nexus, and the other one being the oh, what's the one with Abaddon trying to take the little closet so that he can get in? Oh my god, what is it called? Where Abaddon just butchers Marinus Calgar. What was that battle called?
Calgar
Versus Abaddon. And Abaddon
I
destroys
can.
him.
I'm gonna look it up.
Oh my god, it's a campaign book. It's
Okay.
the Vigilus. Thank you. It's Vigilus and
Vigilus.
Vigilus Ablaze. Those are really good ones. The Iron Warriors one was kind of meh, but a lot of the stuff was really, really good. We got 2 great audiobooks by Gav Thorpe, which is words that I thought I'd never say. But we got Hand of Darkness and Eye of Night, which pits Greyfax going to look for one of the items. I can't remember which one, and Yvraine going for the other item. And they both do retrieve them on Gilliman's orders. We also find out that Gilliman can just call Yvraine, which is hilarious.
Booty
And
call.
when I did talk to Gav Thorpe in a live stream, in a podcast when I was on Adeptus Podcastus, when I was a co-host there, we had Gav Thorpe on, and Gav Thorpe did confirm that they are a couple, but they can't say it. They cannot say that they are a couple because relations is icky and meh. Nakman Gauntlet was also pretty good. I like the Nakman Gauntlet.
Got a super chat from Hermetic Signal. This has been great. Thanks for streaming this. Thank you, buddy. We appreciate you. And it's for people like you that we make this content. I was so excited. Alexis and I were just like, oh, I can't wait. Can't wait to talk about Cadia. It's going to be great before the show.
Much in Cadia. And again, if you guys want to support the channel, support us here, super chats are the best way to do it. You could also like and share this video. That's also awesome.
Help us spread our heresy through the algorithm to other unsuspecting minds. We appreciate you. Right. So, do we want to talk about those theories, or is there more you have to say?
Oh, no, that was it.
All right.
I went over, just to quickly recap you, Ross, I went over, like, this was one of the biggest changes for Games Workshop because they could actually, do copyrights for all of their stuff. They moved certain things around the galactic map, which was super funny. If you look at an old galactic map and a new one, there's planets in different spots.
Well, they can explain that with the Great Rifts.
Yeah, exactly.
Shit happened with Space Wizards. So which one would you like to do first? The fan reactions or the fan theories?
I think the fan reactions to Primaris Marines were it's a lot more positive than people are pretending. I will say that.
Well, the initial reactions were a bit mixed. Back in 2017, when the Fall of Cadia was first announced, there was a significant portion of the fan base was terrified that Games Workshop was going to Age of Sigmar 40k, because Age of Sigmar had just been a few years before that.
Yeah.
The End Times had just been a few years before that. And so they were like, oh crap, they're going to blow up the whole setting and replace it with something different.
Which they totally did, but in a very controlled manner.
Which is exactly what happened to Warhammer Fantasy.
Yeah.
But what happened in 40k was more of, let's change things, let's chart out a new course without destroying what had come before. And that's important. That's a very important distinction between the two events. So there was a lot of deep suspicion about the corporate motives rather than the narrative quality in early on. And most people thought that it was going to be kind of a foregone conclusion. I mean, the 13th Black Crusade would probably somehow get around Cadia. The only question was how.
Yeah.
And so some people felt that this kind of reduced the dramatic tension, but I think nobody was expecting exactly what they got, because again, it was very brilliant of Games Workshop to sort of like, okay, Fall of Cadia, but then, oh my God, the galaxy split in half. That the consequences of Cadia's fall radically changed the narrative, changed the opinions, changed the expectations for what Warhammer 40k could be and will be, and has been.
Also, I do want to mention the sheer amount of writers that Games Workshop added post Fall of Cadia. There used to be like this whole unspoken rule that there's only like 20 writers for Games Workshop. Now it's like we get new books every month.
I can't keep up, y'all. I've tried. I'm still
I've
trying.
tried also.
I'm still trying to keep up. If your guys are probably going to correct us on a few things, and we're probably going to get some stuff wrong from the more recent lore, just because there's a lot of it. And we're doing our best here. And we appreciate your patience with us, because we are occasionally going to get stuff wrong. Regardless of all the experience we have with this lore, we don't work at Games Workshop, so, we're going to do our best. I think we've hit pretty good. Like, our accuracy is pretty high, but it's not 100%.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what's really ironic is that the Chaos players were actually entirely thrilled about the whole thing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they won, but they lost to Blackstone Fortress, and in the process, it changed how people would view what Chaos was going to do next. And the best way to capture this is like, a Chaos player coming up saying, "Okay, guys, good game. See you next time." Wait. What do you mean we won? That's awful. That means
it's the Be'lakor reaction.
That means the bar is higher now. we have to do more next time, yo.
It's the Be'lakor reaction. Be'lakor wins. I'm gonna leave. I don't know what to do now. I was expecting to lose. Okay, bye. Same time next week.
So here we are 9 years later, and the long-term consensus seems to be grudging acceptance, but also strong approval.
Yeah.
The narrative. Go ahead.
I think Games Workshop switching the game and making it more about balance has been super healthy for the game. I do think that 10th edition went a little bit too overboard with how balanced it is, except for we're at the end of the edition, and it's very clear that Defilers need to go up 30 points apiece. But that's not here nor there. 11th edition is around the corner. We're actually seeing a lot of what people complained about in 10th and 9th edition actually being addressed in 11th edition. 11th edition having terrain setups where it's like, hey, put down this little mat. Okay, that's your objective. Put terrain on it. That's it. If you're behind that mat, it blocks line of sight. That's it. Done. I really like that, because that means you can have fun and interactable tables that look really cool. And I think that's super good. We have new charge rules, new mechanics. We have problems being addressed every 3 months. I remember when I first started this game that if you had a bad codex, that was it. You were screwed. Like,
For years.
I remember being like, all right, Space Marines are always going to be like mid to broken. Okay, they're never bad. And then you had Eldar, which were either unstoppably powerful or garbage. There was no in between with Eldar. And it's the same for Drukhari. It was either garbage or playable. And that was it. And then if you picked up any of those armies, you were screwed. You picked up Guard in any edition other than 5th, you were screwed.
They were really good in 5th.
Sucked. Yeah, they were ridiculously good in 5th. Orcs, same problem. Like, you had one codex that was super good, one edition, and then they've just been bleh. And then 8th edition and 9th edition, they stayed at about 50%, which is super nice. I like that GW is addressing problems and fixing it as quickly as they can. I do think they're going a little bit crazy with the additions, but the app has made it so that the points changes are super quick and easy to adjust. And now we're getting a brand new rework to the app and everything. GW is listening to the community. they stopped putting Primaris before everything because a lot of people were getting upset that everything was Primaris. So like the Black Templar, a lot of them don't say Primaris Sword Brethren. It's like Sword Brethren, and they're the same size as Primaris Marines. The new Marshal is a Primaris Marine, but they're not going to say that. They're going to be like, it's a Marshal.
We have an interview where we talked to Sarah Kaiser, who was one of the programmers of the app and also the artist of a lot of webcomics in Warhammer community. So go check out that episode if you want to know more about some of the behind the scenes on that. I think the consensus, though, about the narrative importance of the Fall of Cadia is almost universally, it's universally recognized. Regardless of whether or not you like that it happened, I think the agreement between the fans is that this is the most important war events in modern 40k. It ended the stasis that had existed and forced the setting to actually move forward. And I think everyone was generally happy with that, with the fact that there was some change, that the setting did advance. And as far as the quality of execution, that's generally very, very positive too, because it's viewed as both well executed for what it was. There's good art, there's a solid narrative, there's respectful treatment of established characters. The lore sections are praised, though the rules content, as Alexis talked about, is a little more, some of it's good, some bad. Uneven, let's put it that way.
There's a comment here that I really like.
Nestor Vertumbra. I acknowledge that the fall of Cadia was necessary to give the narrative a boost, but I remain a full-time firstborn loyalist. The lore behind the origin of the Primaris is, to put it mildly, mediocre.
I fully agree with you. The original lore to the Primaris was incredibly stupid. It was just, hey, this is here now. We're making Primaris. Belisarius Call the Great Works does a really good job of explaining a lot of it and showing that Belisarius has failed multiple times and he couldn't quite get it correctly. And it took him over 10,000 years to perfect the Primaris Marines. And even now, they're not perfected. He's seeing the flaws in them. So I really like what the Primaris have become now versus when they were first revealed.
I can address this a little bit. When I was working on Wrath of Glory, this is when this whole thing happened. And it radically changed a lot of stuff that I was working on, because I was working on the assumption that we were in the pre-Indomitus Imperium.
Yeah.
And I can say this, I think Games Workshop actually reacted very quickly and adapted very quickly to some of their mistakes, because early on, the idea was that the Indomitus Crusade was over. It was like, oh, yeah, it happened and it's over and now we're moving on, right? And everybody's like, wait, what? I was one of those people, because I was literally working on, a role-playing game set in this timeline, and I'm like, what do you mean it's over? Surely that would have taken a long-ass time. So Games Workshop, they came around. They were like, okay, the Indomitus Crusade is not over. It's ongoing. It takes a really long time. We're going to have to write a whole bunch of books about this. They also went from, hey, the Primaris are here, deal with it, to, I think, expanding out a lot of how that happened with Guy Haley's really, really good books about the Grey Shields and Gilliman's Return and all that. I think they did a pivot where they decided to add more gravitas to things that needed it, like the introduction of the Primaris, like the return of Gilliman, like, just expanding on Call and what he's about and what he's doing, to where it wasn't just a sudden, like, hey, here's this guy you've never heard of, and he's introduced a whole new set of minis you have to buy.
I do also like, because we never had this before, and we do need to talk about this. Pre-Fall of Cadia, post-Fall of Cadia are had two different company leads, essentially. So, like, one was set in his ways, the other one is like, we need to push to the future, which I really like.
Yeah, the Kevin Roundtree era began just a few years before 2017, and Roundtree is the one that did the shift from Warhammer Fantasy to Age of Sigmar. He's the one that did the end of Cadia. He's also the guy that threw open the vaults and brought out G-Sealer cults and Scutari and Rogue Traders and all kinds of stuff that we had never seen.
And Arbites.
And Arbites, yeah. There's a whole bunch of stuff that had been locked in the vaults under the previous regime. This is the fall of Cadia is a major narrative event that occurred under a whole new creative and a whole new creative direction for the company. That's
And
worth
now
pointing out.
I can actually say this as somebody who worked with a bunch of the insiders for rules versus now where I don't. So sorry about that, but I still talk to a bunch of the people that work on rules for Warhammer 40k. Um, Prior to the fall of Cadia, we had things that were, here's a rule for a vehicle we know is broken, so people will buy it. So we'll turn up its price. We'll take the Dire Avenger squad from 10 dudes and make it 5.
Same
So
price. Same price though.
same price. And nowadays, yeah, the price has gone up, but I will tell you this: if you actually put GW into a uh, uh, what is it called? Inflation calculator. They barely keep up above inflation, and I think that's pretty cool for a business of its size. Now, granted, it doesn't keep up, and you have to remember that it's a global business. So while it doesn't keep up in America, or it keeps up in America, it doesn't keep up in Australia because Australia is crazy when it comes to prices for everything.
It's worth mentioning the Games Workshop is the most profitable country in the entire UK, company in the entire UK,
Yeah.
and they still utterly dominate the miniatures games market.
Yep.
So it must be doing something right.
But one of the big things is the newer editions of Warhammer 40k. The committee that does the rules has no ties to GW's sales department.
Right, which is a big deal.
That is a big deal. So if something's broken, it's not broken because GW is trying to sell it. It's broken because, well, the game designer broke it.
So let's talk about the memes.
I do love me some memes.
Cadia stands, which is what I have on my screen, and Cadia, the planet broke before the guard did, which is what Alexis says on her screen. These were two of the most used memes of all Warhammer 40k. These phrases, I should say, they carry genuine emotional weight. If you are at all a fan of the Astra Militarum, the Imperial Guard, this represents loss and defiance and the continuation of identity even after physical destruction. Especially Guard players, they embrace this tragedy. There's just something about having that lost something in the lore that makes it more meaningful to them. The destruction gave Cadian armies specifically and Guard armies in general an underdog narrative and a martyrdom status that resonated very deeply with people. And you'll see these memes. These memes are going to continue for at least a little bit longer. I think they've been around a while, but they're still pretty strong. And I think most people, I believe, according to my research into the fan base, I believe that the overall consensus is that this was a necessary evil.
Yeah.
The fall of Cadia. It was a plot advancement that needed to happen. Chaos had been too weak for too long. The setting was stagnant.
They can only get new demons.
The setting was stagnant. Something had to break that status quo. It was painful, but the catalyst to make 40k feel like it had stakes again was the fall of Cadia and the creation of the Great Rift. The return of Guilliman, the Primaris Marines, the Indomitus Crusade. These are all net positives for the setting's vitality. Even people who were initially very skeptical, like myself, splitting the galaxy in half creates an interesting asymmetrical aspect to the galaxy and offers a whole lot of new narrative opportunities.
It also stops the whole, well, why doesn't Guilliman just go there?
Right.
It stops the whole, well, let's take the answer and put it over here, because you can't now.
The fall of Cadia went from controversial but important in 2017 to one of the most defining moments of the setting, and absolutely necessary and absolutely well executed by 2026. I think the meme culture and the reception to this whole thing, it has turned the phrase Cadia stands from tragedy into a rallying cry. And if you go to any tournament and say Cadia stands, there's going to be a Guard player who's going to be like, hell yeah, brother, hell yeah.
So funny enough, I was watching a tournament the other week. I can't remember if it was Tactical Tortoise or War Games Live, but I remember the Guard player just rolling his saves one at a time And the whole time he's just like, Cadia stands, Cadia stands, Cadia stands, and then made the last save. He's like, yes. And I'm like, that's what I want.
There is a third meme, although it's less used, which is Creed lives.
Yeah, that one's deader than Creed.
I've only seen it on like the diehard Cadian players or Cadian fans stuff, but it does exist. So I thought I'd mention. Good, worth mentioning. Would you like to talk about some fan theories about the fall of Cadia?
Oh heck yeah!
I thought I thought it was really important for you guys to understand like the reaction to it, because as I said, it's such a big deal, and that's why we covered that part.
But there is still something funny that I want to point out.
Oh, please.
So Horus sieged the Imperium for what, 27 years? 20 years for the heresy, 7 years for the Siege of Terra, something like that. I can't
Siege of
remember.
Terra, heresy was around 7 years long, so yeah.
Yeah, it's something like that, where the whole thing took like no time, and then he lost. Okay, Abaddon has been taking 10,000 years, and the best that he did was rip the galaxy in half. That's pretty cool. All I'm saying is sisters won.
Sisters, Celestine means we won.
All I'm saying is sisters actually managed to get to the Emperor. They could have killed him.
Rothian Fairmoon says, after having a weird sleep schedule, I managed to catch a stream. Thank you. Good to see you, Rothian. Rush 21129. So how many orcs are still on Cadia? None. It shattered. The planet shattered into pieces.
Yeah, there is some stuff happening with Cadia currently. There is a battle group trying to capture Cadia as a symbol and recapture the Cadian system. There have been other planets that have been fortified to try to create a second Cadia, essentially. And Pro Turbo, Turbo Autism, he came out and he's just like, Cadia, the Shattered Remains, is mine now. And he is taking it over. Keep in mind, I'm not using autism as a joke here. It's more like Perturabo is written as if he has autism. It's pretty funny. But he's taking over what's left of Cadia and the Cadian system because he needs to control all of that before he can start pushing into the galaxy, which is exactly the same plan as Abaddon. So it feels kind of weird.
Listen, autism is a serious issue. We're absolutely not making light of it or anything like that. Perturabo is the guy's name. He's a Chaos Primarch. He's like the new version of Abaddon in that he has a lot of names and people are kind of ridiculing him.
Yeah.
I've called him Perty. Peter Turbo is another name.
Peter Turbo is the best one.
I don't know. Anyway, so the fan theories. One of the fan theories is that the pylons were not facing outward; they were facing downward. That maybe the pylons were not a wall against the Eye of Terror, but more importantly, I should say, a lid on something within Cadia itself. Something buried deep in the planet.
Inside the planet.
I mean, maybe there's some sort of entity or pre-universal horror that was where the pylons were actually suppressing, and that the Eye of Terror, maybe the Eye of Terror formed there where it did because of whatever was inside Cadia. This is a theory. I don't fully support it because it's fascinating to think about.
I don't like that one because we know why the Pylon Network was really made.
I know it undercuts the narrative a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's still fun. I like that fans are out there like saying weird shit like maybe the pylons were containing something even worse.
Yeah.
Some dark being at the heart of Cadia.
It's actually Malal.
Oh God, no! Oh, please no.
I mean, that's still my favorite part of Battlefield Gothic 2 is when they summon Malal and then Lord Admiral Spire blows up the entire planet, killing all of them. So you guys are in canon. Boom.
So fun fact, the war in heaven occurred millions of years before the current timeline.
Take a shot.
And the Necrons put the pylons on Cadia before the Eye of Terror ever existed, because that's only the Eye of Terror is only about 10,500 years old.
Now, we do know that the heart of the Eldar Empire was there.
Was where the Eye of Terror exists, yes.
Yes.
So it's
So-
possible the Necrons were like, okay, we're going to defend against the Eldari Dominion, the empire of the old Eldar. That's a possibility. It could have been a coincidence. It could have been that the
I see a really good theory in here.
So our question says they were containing a Kong-sized Jakaro.
With
Okay,
finger lasers.
that's hilarious. A King Kong-sized Jakaro would be, oh my god, I'd lose my mind. That would be amazing. Please, Games Workshop, write this up. I will write the novel. Give Black Library call me. I will write the novel about the King Kong-sized Jakaro. That's hilarious. It's also possible that the Eye of Terror's formation was attracted to a weak point in the network, and maybe that is why the Necrons reinforced Cadia, is that it was actually a weak point in between the material world and the warp. So there's a lot of possibilities here. I think it is interesting to definitely think about, like, why would they have put so many pylons on Cadia long before the Eye of Terror ever existed? It does call into question some of the things, like, could there be something under Cadia's surface or something like that? I don't know.
Maybe.
I'm going to go with, personally, I think coincidence, or as you pointed out, it's the heart of the Eldari Dominion, and they were just preparing to resist all the weird psychic powers and stuff that the Eldar had.
Or maybe during the War in Heaven, that's where they trapped most of them. Again, we don't know, because the War in Heaven is the most retcon, well, one of the most retcon things in 40k.
Then there's the question about Trazin's true motivations. So the official lore says that Trazin intervened on Cadia because his collection alerted him and he opposed chaos. But there are fan theories that he may have had other interests. And one of the theories is that the whole reason he was there was to collect Ursarker Creed.
I think Creed was a backup. I think he was after Abaddon.
Ooh, now that would be a get, because he does have a Horus Heresy era collection.
Yeah,
and trying to put Abaddon in that collection would be a big deal. So maybe his assistance, quote unquote, with Belisarius' call, maybe that was calibrated to ensure that Cadia did fall in a way that he could acquire or capture his target in a perfect dramatic moment. And also, let's be clear, this is not out of character for Trazin to do.
Oh no, he loves it. Like, he absolutely loves it. If there weren't so many variables, I'm pretty sure he would have captured Cadia at the exact point of its fall to watch it a billion times. But there is something that has always bugged me. Belisarius' call and Trazin. Trazin has never tried to capture Belisarius' call. He's only ever talked to him. I think he sees Belisarius as a peer. I
Quite
think
possibly.
when he met him, he was like somebody that is just like me. Somebody who wants to tinker, who wants to experiment, who wants to figure things out that aren't their own. And I think there's a kinship between those two. Also, the way they're written is Trazin is definitely the gay uncle. And it 1000% has been adapted that way. And I'm so glad I made that meme so long ago, because I got that book on pre-release and I made that joke. And then when they did the audiobook, Trazin is definitely coded to be a gay man. And I'm just so happy with that.
Another theory is that Trazin wanted to access Cadia's pylons for study, and that his cooperation with Call was just primarily about acquiring samples before the planet was destroyed. I don't agree with that. I don't think that was ever his pylons. Also, he could have got pylons from anywhere.
Yes. Well, one of the big things about Trazin is he did help quite a bit in the war prior to revealing himself. Like, he destroyed a Chaos Baneblade. He assassinated enemy leaders. he caused most of the militia, the Chaos militia that were there, to flee because he used his snipers to kill all of their leaders. He protected as many leaders as he could of the Imperial forces. He led he met up in the meeting, revealed himself in the meeting, and everyone was so desperate that they accepted him. There is a there is something about him that goes beyond their understanding of uh like they're not as xenophobic to Trazen as they should be. So it could be mind shackle scarabs, just saying, because he does use those quite a bit. He uses them a lot. In fact, Belisarius Call has gotten really, really good at removing mind shackle scarabs. He removed them from Greyfax.
That's right.
But I have a sneaking suspicion that he was there to collect ancient warriors, ancient weaponry from the not ancient to him because he's collecting human stuff. But I also think that he went there because he wants to help. Like, as weird as it is, I think Trazen might actually be in the category of Eldred where he's just a good guy.
We have a super chat from Elementor Exposure. Thank you, sir. He says we must have additional pylons.
Hell yeah.
Well, there is a theory that he was just there to observe history in action.
Oh yeah, that's something he would do.
He genuinely but you're arguing that he did genuinely care if Cadia survived.
I think when his motives for being there were probably something like narcissistic. But when he got there, he was like, I could help. I should help. I'm going to help. Because in The Infinite and the Divine, Trazen is very sympathetic towards humans. He's insanely sympathetic towards them. Granted, I don't believe he's a good guy, but let me put that out there. He will kill people billions of times over. In fact, he enslaves people for their entire lives, usually giving them a pretty decent life, but they're still a slave. But in terms of 40k, I would say that he is as close to good that you can get.
I don't know. I don't know. I think Eldred still beats him on the I'm actually a good guy. Eldred, again, there's no good guys in 40k, but Eldred is maybe the closest we have, and I think maybe Trazen is less than that. But
yeah, I would say that.
So, fun fact: the planet broke before the guard did. That's a meme, but some people believe it's actual literal truth.
Well, I mean, the guard during the final moments of the planet being destroyed, the guard did hold long enough for Greyfax and the Black Templar to retreat. The Black Templar retreated. The guard didn't. And in fact, your brain in the Hand of Darkness or Eye of something, I can't remember the book's names right now. I'm so sorry. She mentions how skilled the Cadians are because she's walking around with them. She has them with her as a guard, and it's really cool.
The meme is that the Cadian defenders never actually surrendered. They never routed. They were fighting at full effectiveness right up to the moment the planet physically shattered. Mm-hmm. And this interpretation, what's interesting about it, is it makes Abaddon's victory Pyrrhic. He won not by defeating the military, but by destroying the ground underneath their feet. And I that's what I kind of like about it. And again, it's just that representation of that stubborn, willing, this desire to survive that I think guard players just eat it up with a spoon. I know I do.
Well, like as a guard player, you're just a normal dude with a gun fighting nightmares. Like that is the best way to describe the guard. Here's a rifle. Go kill that god.
The Emperor could have intervened, but he didn't. Is another fan theory.
But he did. Celestine.
If you count Celestine, he technically did. But why didn't he, intervene more directly? I guess is the fan theory, and the ideas here is that yes, and Legion of the Damned. Let's not forget. By the way,
the Legion showed up.
So why didn't he work harder to save Cadia? I guess is the answer.
The Pylon Network, maybe.
Maybe the fan theory is that the Emperor needed Guilliman back, and that the fall of Cadia is required for that.
That is a 4D chess move. I'm not gonna lie.
right? Uh,
Yeah,
and also to go even further down that road. Remember, the emperor always does think in terms of thousands of years, typically. Letting Cadia fall in the Great Rift Open could be serving some sort of longer term strategic purpose that we don't yet understand.
that is very true.
This definitely teeters on the edge of that tinfoil hat. Zeech is behind everything, or the Emperor is all seeing, all knowing.
Well, after the Great Rift opened, the Emperor became way more active.
It's true.
Like the whole golden child thing started appearing all over the galaxy. Living Saints have been more active. Celestine is more powerful. Ethereal Stern returned.
And it's possible that the Emperor is just weaker than we think, with his power stretched thin with the Astronomicon and the Webway Gate, and maybe he just couldn't genuinely use his powers to save Cadia. But it could be all of the above. It could be some of the above. It could be a combination of all of these ideas.
I mean, if we just have the Emperor solve all the problems, the game is boring.
True. But
Like,
these theories are interesting, though, don't you
yeah,
think?
I do like them. I do love the idea that the Emperor sent Celestine because that's all that's all he needed to send to defeat Abaddon, and he was correct.
So
As well as billions of soldiers and titans and multiple chapters of base. But Celestine got the kill.
I think we need to do at some point a what if, and the what if will be what if Cadia did not fall,
Oh,
and that I think is going to be big because Gilliman would probably still return because that was independent of Call
yeah.
still plan to do it.
But would
That was
he activate it yet?
I don't know. There wouldn't be a Great Rift probably. The Blood
Oh,
Angels would probably all be destroyed.
the Blood Angels and Space Holes would die off.
And Cadia would probably still be ruined by orbital bombardment.
Oh God, yeah, the Blood Angels would be so screwed.
Yeah.
Oh, because they get
Anyway,
destroyed. Oh, I don't like this sort of thing.
we're gonna have to talk about that in a whole episode, I think. Ice Veins, thank you, sir. He says, I just want to say thank you for the streams and congratulations on the final the on the season. Thank you.
The
Yeah, this
season
is
finale, not the
season
final
finale.
season.
Yeah, season finale, yes. Actually, we could take a moment to talk about this is our first season of the show. We've done 28 episodes of the lore and 28 episodes of the bonus shows. Do you want to take a moment and look back?
I mean, I just want to thank everybody for being there. Like, I'm gonna be real with you guys. When we were pitched this, I was just like, "Oh, this is good." There's a big stretch in the corner. But anyway, when we were pitched this, I was super worried. I was like, I'm kind of not really relevant on the internet anymore. I don't really do much anymore. But sure, I'll jump on. Who's Ross? Wait, I know that name. Hang on. Dark Heresy book. I know this guy. Then I met you and we started doing all of this and we were rough at first. I think we're doing really good now. Um like it's been really fun to do this. Like to dive into 40k and I mean, I love hyping up the lore. There are certain things in the lore that I love talking about and the things that I learn alongside the community that learns with us. Cuz like there are some things that I simply do not know. And then they get explained and I'm just like, "Oh, cool. I love this. Let's talk about this some more." Like the Phoenix Lords, the retconning in 40k is one of my favorite topics is the retconning. The War in Heaven and how it's become a joke in our community at this point to take a shot every time it's mentioned. It's been a wild ride and I absolutely love each and every single one of you guys. It's been great and we are going to do more seasons soon and yeah.
Yeah, we're not done. This is just the end of the first season.
Yeah.
We will have more shows. I echo everything that Alexis said. She said it better than I could. We're very grateful to everybody for helping us keep the show going. For me, I think my favorite episodes so far have been things like the War in Heaven and the Phoenix Lords, and there are some episodes I'd love to go back and do again. I'd actually really like to go back and redo, what is Warhammer 40k and what are the Space Marines specifically. I think
Yeah.
I wouldn't say there are worst episodes, but I want to do them again.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, look, super chat. Dylan Schroeder. I missed many live because of work and life, but also means I have a large backlog to watch. So thank you. Thank you, sir. We do this for people like you. We do it for you guys, for the lore seekers and the lore seeker community. Do
Also,
you
there's a
have?
COVID.
Yes, that's a very beautiful cat. What's your favorite episode so far, Alexis?
Oh my God, face flyer.
The Let's Builds have been amazing.
The fact that out of all of the groups, like out of all the Let's Builds, I really thought we were going to get grimdark with some of them. The darkest one is the one I thought was going to be comedic.
Yeah, the wacky one. Yeah, we thought the orc character would be wacky and weird, and it turned out to be, holy crap, this is dark.
Yeah, yeah, and it's been absolutely wild.
Actually, the Necron episode is one of my favorites too,
The
because
Necron one made me cry at the end of it.
I felt the same
Like,
way. I was like, I can't believe I didn't realize how absolutely tragic this whole thing is.
like their newer story makes them so much darker than their old story. Their old story was just Terminators enslaved to gods that eat souls. Not very deep. Here's a group of dementia patients that are eventually going to have their minds rot before their bodies do, and they're going to be a part of that for all eternity.
Yeah,
That is the darkest thing in 40k, or one
yeah,
of the darkest things.
it's pretty dark. I would like to, another one I'd like to go back and do again would be what if the Emperor died, because that was our first what if.
Yeah.
Are there any ones you'd like to redo or edit?
The Space Marine one.
Yeah,
Yeah, I feel like we could have done better.
yeah. I think we did start hitting our stride around the Sister of Battle episode.
Well, that's because it's Sisters of Battle, and as we know, they actually sieged Terra successfully.
We have created actually a lot of memes about just our channel. Like Alexis loves Sisters of Silence and Sisters of Battle. Ross loves Space Marines and Imperial Guard. Both of us are down on Crud.
I will mention monkeys as much as possible.
Jacaro or a running gag. Yeah. I think it's been a really enriching experience being a host of Lorebeards for this first season. I'm excited. I can't wait to do more. I'm looking forward to many more seasons of Lorebeards 40k, including the bonus shows, because the Let's Builds are great, the What Ifs are great, the tier lists are a lot of fun. We have a great deal of enjoyment out of this. We got another super chat. Ricky Chapman, thank you so much. Ricky Chapman is our local RPG enthusiast, and he always shares stories of his role-play game campaign. He says, we were there. Cadia fell, being chased by Death Guard, who we realized, stats-wise, we were faster. So we had a 4-day running gunfight, but we were victorious until the Night Lords found our squad of Cadians.
Don't put you down, buddy. There we go.
Yeah, being found by the Night Lords, no fun. No fun.
No, not at all.
As one of our viewers who is a big Night Lord stan can tell you. Yeah. Are you looking forward? Are there other topics you're really looking forward to exploring on the show?
Space Marines Part 2. Because I want to talk about some Space Marines. I want to do a Astra Militarum. We have to talk about some of the Astra Militarum, some of the characters. We need to do a Celestine episode, like a full Celestine episode.
Agreed.
A full Trazyn episode.
Agreed.
And Abaddon, like obviously we need those. But there are some lesser characters that I really want to do and really dive into. And I want to do an episode where we dive into like less lore rich characters like Zara Kaneel and Shalaxi Hellbane.
Those are very obscure characters, but I'm down.
Yeah. Because like they only have like one paragraph each.
I want to talk about
something real cool.
Oh, sure.
Oh, look at this. Hang on. I gotta move my cat over.
Move the cat.
Oh, hang on. I gotta put Swing back on.
Is he fighting back?
He is.
Oh my God. It's a Thunderhawk. Woo! Look at that thing.
I am so happy to say I finally own a Thunderhawk.
Wow. Is that plastic resin? What is that?
It is a 3D printed resin version of the Thunderhawk. Because I am not paying Games Workshop prices for a Thunderhawk. And my buddy printed this out for me. It took him 4 days of solid printing. I'm super happy to finally own a Thunderhawk. And now that I own a Thunderhawk, it's going to come out in plastic. Because that's what happens. Every time I buy either a resin or I get a 3D printed version of it, it comes out in plastic.
Well, I'm a
But
man of
I
a
am.
certain age, and when I was working at Games Workshop back in 2003, we had a tournament where somebody brought in their metal Thunderhawk, which those were extremely rare. And I can tell you how heavy that freaking thing was. And it didn't look anywhere near as cool as the one you have in your hands. So
And you
that's a
know what
blast
this
from the
is going to
past.
be painted as, right?
Gorgon's Talons?
No.
Oh, okay. What?
Slightly cooler. Dark Angels. 30K.
Nice. They are. Oh, that's a 30K Thunderhawk? Interesting. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing an episode on the minor Xenos races, like the Uvoth and the Slouth and the Rangdan.
The
I know
Tyrellians.
the Tyrellians. I know a lot of our fans are really into the lesser Xenos races, the smaller empires, and I think I would really like to cover that. That's probably more than one episode for sure. I'm really looking forward to covering big events, things like the Council of Nicaea or the Burning of Prospero or the Macarian Crusade, which we should absolutely talk about the Macarian Crusade, the Nova Terra Interregnum, the Reign of Blood. There's a lot of really cool moments in Imperial history we should cover.
I want to cover Imperial Saints, like living saints. So
Sure.
I'm talking like Saint Anias, Saint Albus, Saint Celest. Well, Saint Celestine will get her own episode because she actually has lore.
Saint Drusus.
Saint Drusus, yeah.
The patron saint of the Calixtus sector.
I'm stupid excited for the future of this.
I wouldn't mind talking about the Calixtus sector. That would be a really fun one to discuss. The Jericho Reach, the Coronis Expanse. I want to talk about the 40k video games.
We have to do an episode just about the video games. We have to do a episode where we just look at Space Marines in media and judge whether or not they actually die.
I don't know about
that. That might be a video on my channel.
Okay.
Because that has always been something that's bugged me. Like you see a Space Marine get shot and blown up a little bit, and I'm like, that Space Marine's not dead.
Well, is he dead? Is he a dreadnought? What's going to happen here?
Yeah, and just discuss it, and then we have to do one on dreadnoughts.
There's so much lore out there, y'all. I mean, I could do an episode just on apothecaries of the Space Marines because a lot of people think that apothecaries are medics. That's actually not their primary function. They're not actually there to patch people up. That's secondary. They're there to collect the gene seed.
Yep. Oh, it's messed up.
There's a lot, and we're going to be covering a whole bunch of stuff in the future. So stay tuned. And our bonus episodes, we're going to do more of those as well. So every Wednesday between 2 and 5 Mountain Time, every Saturday between 2 and 5 Mountain Time, you can catch us on Lorebeards talking about the grim darkness of the far future. Alexis, do we have any miniatures to look at this week?
Yes, we do. But first, I got to get this thing out of the way.
Oh, right.
I took its wings off because
that's
I didn't
huge.
glue its wings on.
It's huge.
I know, like, look at it.
So big. Love it.
I'm so happy with this thing.
Fun fact, the weapon on top of a Thunderhawk is a Titan class weapon. It is a turbo laser.
Yep. All right. So we got cool stuff to look at, and cool stuff is always good stuff. So let me X this out first. All right, and let me bring up the Discord really quickly so I can get the names and everything correctly. So this is Hitman 1213. There we go. I gotta minimize this. And these are some they got some stuff left on these. These aren't finished, but these are their
Death Company.
They're Death Company Marines, and they look fantastic. I like the old Death Company models.
Yeah, me too. And I like the way this silver color scheme works on them. It's not one I've actually seen before, which is pretty great.
I also like that your base trims aren't just black.
Wait. I've got a comment I've got to react to.
Oh.
Ricardo Andre, have you spoken of the valiant contribution of the Night Lord's Legion for the 13th Black Crusade?
Actually did.
We did
slightly.
A little bit. He was studying and he just got here now.
These look
We
really
did talk
good.
a little bit about the Night Lords, but not much in the 13th Black Crusade. But these Death Company models look great, and he's done well with the bases. Good job on the bases. You heard me say it. Good job. Well done. You got to.
Infernal
Oh,
pistols.
stop right there. Stop right there. That guy with the flamer, the combi flamer. No, sorry, the guy with the Inferno pistol. It looks like you had a stray strand from the brush on his helmet there get stuck. Can you see it?
Yeah, yeah, you can.
Something to watch out for is your brushes can sometimes lose a little bit of hair, and it can kind of get stuck on the
Also,
model.
add your plasma glow. Ah. No, I
But
like
yeah,
these.
those are looking really good, man. Well done.
I like the two-handed Thunderhammer. That's always been one of my
Oh, it's
favorites.
classic. Yeah, classic. And these are firstborn Marines. These are not
Yep.
Primaris.
In fact, this one is actually it looks like almost a what are they called? They're not judicators. Judicars for the Grey Knights. It looks like that body, which is pretty
No,
funny.
I think that's just the company champion.
Oh, is it the
I
company champion?
think I'm not sure. I can't tell from this distance, unfortunately, but it looks good. I mean, it's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, I like the plasma pistol from the Primaris Marine is on this one. That's pretty funny. That whole arm right there is from a Primaris Space
Is
Marine.
it? Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah, weirdly enough, the Primaris Space Marines fix one thing and do it really well. They make their legs longer and straighter, which means that you can use bits back and forth between Primaris and Firstborn, and they look appropriate.
Very nice. Very nice.
Let me get this out of the way. There we go. And then we got some more with close combat weapons, power fists, a whole plethora of different items and weapons and war gear.
Listen, you want your Death Company to get stuck in as early as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rush is confirming that is a Primaris arm.
Yeah. They look really good. I'm really happy with these. These look great.
Yeah, I noticed you have a guy in black armor like the standard Death Company, but I wonder what that is about. Wow, look at these guys. These are from
Mr. Vitumbra.
Nestor Vitumber. Wow. Wow, that's a navigator on the right and on
And
the
an
left.
arch militant bodyguard.
Nice. You know where arch militants come from? The Rogue Trader role-playing game.
Yep.
Oh my god, I love it. That looks amazing.
So that's a Sister of Silence, which is really cool.
The basis for it, yeah, it's got a Sister of Battle backpack. It's got a helmet from I don't know where the helmet comes from.
So that base helmet is a Sola Exilia.
Wow. Is that a Thousand Suns or something brow attachment? It looks so good.
Yeah.
It's got a Sarissa on the bolter.
Yep. These look amazing. These fantastic job. Holy
God,
crap.
these are really good, Nestor Vitumber. You probably get tired of us saying that every time because they're almost always really good.
My god, a Kroot with a plasma weapon.
Hey!
Hell yeah.
Check it out.
Good conversion right there.
That's a really good way to tell a bit of a story about your weapon there because the crew weapons are updated by the Tau. You know, Alexis, I've been thinking about a new thing we could do on our bonus show.
Oh?
And that is to invent a story for somebody submits like an army and we invent a story about it.
Oh, we do their backstory.
Yeah, we do the backstory for an army.
I'm down for that. We could do something like that. I like that.
Because I think you would agree with this that you can just put together an army on the tabletop that is the most effective units, but it's a lot more fun if all of those units are part of a narrative, part of a story you tell. That the story is actually more important in a lot of ways to the enjoyment.
My Slanesh army is all based around the 6 activities at a carnival.
See, that's what I think we could do is somebody could submit an army and we could look at it and create a story for it. If you guys are interested in this idea, please join our Discord and put it up in the 40k chat. And we will we'll look at it as if it's something you think would be a lot of fun to do.
So funny thing about this shield here, as a shield user, I could talk about this. So one of the things that we can do with our shields that we're allowed to do is put a belt on our shields and throw it around our back. But half the time when we're using a spear, we can take that shield that's on our back and twirl it to the front so it's covering this arm. So we're actually protected from our own shield. So it kind of looks like you're doing that. I don't know if that was intentional, but it's a really, really cool little thing. I think that's amazing. All right,
Nice. Look at this guy. Holy crap.
so these are bounty hunters. So
Necromunda?
the Kroot was a bounty hunter.
Hmm.
It doesn't say whether or not they're from Necromunda. It's just his gallery of rogues, which
Nice.
is
Well,
great.
this looks great. This looks amazing.
Yeah,
Look,
this is a
the
Necromunda miniature, which is cool.
just beautiful paintwork, especially on the thigh pad there. The bolter that he's carrying is amazing. No notes. This is just looks rad.
Yeah, I really like this.
Love the pose
I
with the tactical helmet there on the ground.
I am gonna speed through a couple of these. Damn.
Ooh, damn. That dude looks rad as hell.
What did Skeletor do?
His face looks a little unfinished to me, but maybe that's just the lighting.
I think it is the lighting. I do like the needle pistol.
Or is he wearing a mask? Yeah, the needles pistol is very good. I like the colors all work. This is fantastic. Great base, by the way.
Yeah.
That's a 3D
Yeah, I'm
printed
still
base.
upset what Skeletor did.
Ah!
Like, why'd he kill Skeletor?
He's got a skull on his belt
With purple around it,
with
specifically.
purple. Yeah, it's very nice. Votan or a squat.
So this is a squat from Necromunda.
Hmm.
I just love this guy. Look
Check
at
out that lens. Look at the lens on his shoulder
Yep.
mount there. God, that's well done. And the boots, the way those ridges work. Great. It's not easy to do hair like a beard and the braids. The braids could be a little more distinct, but I mean, I'm just nitpicking. I'm absolutely picking at the smallest nit because this is a really good model. The visor itself on his eyes. Oh,
Just wait until the next two models. You're gonna need pants.
good thing I'm already wearing them.
Janice Drake. This is a rogue trader and another
Woo!
and the next one is a navigator.
God damn, that looks good. Great
Yeah,
purple color on the head on his shoulder there.
look at that cod piece. Damn.
He's giving David Bowie a run for his money there.
It's really nice. I also love that you actually have like stains on your pants.
No, those are wrinkles.
No. I'm talking about the stain underneath it.
Ah, okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Like that's crazy.
Wow, holy shit.
I need to do this. I
This is a
might steal this
conversion.
idea. This is a
That's
conversion. This is a Magus of the Gene Stealer cult with a skull.
with a where does that skull come from? That's really wild. It looks great. It looks like a John Blanche painting.
It
The
does.
the goddamn.
Yeah, this is insane.
Very nicely done.
Nestor did a lot of miniatures. I think there's
Shuriken pistol,
3
I
more
think.
miniatures.
Wow, that's beautiful. Goddamn. Look at the tattoo on her abdomen.
Yep.
So this would be a great one for the painter. It's Nestor, right? If you have a
Yeah.
story about these characters, or if you want us to come up with a story for this warband, we're in because this looks great. Look at the graph shoot on her back. Goddamn.
I also love the mutations.
Oh,
that
she
has.
does. Yeah, she's a mutant. Holy
She
shit.
has a tail and a horn.
Damn.
Yeah. And then an actual Marine.
Oh, look at that.
A Fallen.
Perfect. That is a very good depiction of a Dark Angel Fallen. He's got the old school black and red armor paint. He's got the tilting shield with the quarters. Yeah, I'm in love with this.
I love your use of the Sister of Silence shoulder pads. You have a lot of them in your army, and I really like it because they have a very unique shoulder pad.
They look cool as hell.
Moving
Look
on,
at this guy. God damn. Okay, please enter this in a painting competition.
Yeah. Oh, this isn't a dark. This is a different shoulder pad. This looks. This isn't a Sister of Silence one. Sorry, my bad. From the front, it looked like a Sister of Silence one.
No, but he's an excellent Fallen. Just
Yeah.
the cable and the power sword.
Now I'm gonna point this out to you, Ross. This arm and this arm are both from what kit? You made them.
Deathwatch?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. It's the elbow guard that got me. You can see,
Yeah.
that's where I picked it up, was on the elbow guard. But this is the look. Check out the old school backpack he had on him too.
Hang on. Yep. Older backpack. It's great.
Love it. That is such a great fallen. Hey,
And,
we've got a Dread Knight.
and this is from Hellflayer.
Hey,
These are the
Hellflare.
last few models that we have in here. We got
Nice.
the Nemesis baby carrier.
He's working on that base. Love it.
These things look so much better if you just give him a dreadnought torso.
Yeah, I
But
guess that's
it
true.
is a good paint job.
I would like to see it with a especially like a Tempter torso would be pretty interesting.
We got a Space Marine library next to them.
Nice. Oh, look at that.
See, this base is done. This is
No,
fine.
that's
I like
yeah,
this.
I agree. I'm okay with that base. That Wraith Lord is excellent.
Yeah, it's a Wraith Lord.
That's a really good Wraith Lord.
One of the things that I always love is people who do freehand on the Wraith Lord's face.
Yeah, same.
I wish I could do it. It's so far beyond my skill, but
It's
damn.
difficult. But there are transfers as well you can put on there.
Yeah, true. And then they got the event miniature for being subscribed to Warhammer Plus. The
Ooh.
Eldar Wraith Seer, I think this is, where it's trying to heal a fallen Wraith, which is really cool.
Really? Can you zoom in on that?
I think the next picture, no, the next picture doesn't really show.
Oh wow, that's really
pretty,
cool. Is that a
pretty
Bone
bad
Singer?
picture.
It's got to be a Bone Singer.
Yeah, the Bone Singers are the ones that heal them, right?
Yeah.
Okay, then it's a Bone Singer.
A Wraith Seer is a Wraith Lord that has a Farseer soul.
Right. I get those two. Yeah, I get those two mixed up.
But that's really nice.
A wash will do you wonders with
this.
Yeah,
you need a wash. I agree.
And then the last picture that we have is just the pile of paints. This is the right amount of paints.
That's what my workplace that's what my painting spot looks like too.
Oh man, I love it.
This is the end of our season. This is the end of the episode. We've done the Fall of Cadia. Thank you everyone for being with us for 28 episodes of Lorebeards 40k.
Holy cow!
It's been a hell of a journey.
Wild. It's so wild. And you know what they say, Ross? In the grim darkness of the far future,
there is only lore. See you guys next time.